We live. We are live.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to North American LCS. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Josh Kim. Josh, how you feeling today?
Doing pretty good. What's going on? All right. I'm gonna fix the camera.
All right, guys. Welcome to the post-league time pre-show. I'm Scarra, your host, one of your two hosts. I guess one of the two hosts for our pre-show. This is Josh.
Josh Xell Kim. I do some of the production here, and I help host this pre-show
All
thing.
the production.
The pre-post league time. Oh, the mark timer.
So as usual, our production is a little bit slippy this week. It's because, honestly, Josh didn't get that much sleep, so our one-man production crew tended to be a little bit tired this week. Anyways, welcome to the pre-show. For people who don't know, usually post-league time is an analysis show about the LCS games that happened during the weekend. It's a weekly show hosted by me and MarkZ. Unfortunately, this is not Mark. And the reason why this is not Mark...
Why is that unfortunate?
Fortunately, this is not Mark.
There you go.
And the reason why this isn't Mark is because he does the analyst desk at LCS. And so for him to get there to here takes a little bit of time, especially with some LA traffic involved. So usually, especially on Sundays, he gets here quite quick. But we're the show before the show begins. You know, some people would say we're like the appetizer, because sometimes the appetizer is better than the main course.
Yeah, dude. This appetizer is delicious. We're so much better than Mark. I've been throwing a lot of shade against Mark this last weekend. Like
okay.
yesterday,
he doesn't watch the VOD, so it's not even a big deal.
Doesn't even matter. He has no idea.
Anyways, welcome to the show. We have a mark timer near this side. So we'll be timing how long it takes Mark to get into the show. For people who don't know, we will be going over all 4 games that happened today, or all 4 series. And at the very end of the series, we'll be breaking down our weekly power rankings, where we rate all top 10 teams.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard today.
I can't wait for you guys to do the power rankings today, because there were so many goddamn upsets. I mean, the top 2 teams both went 0-2 this week.
Yes, and TSM somehow, by the grace of God, came out first place in North American LCS. Yeah. They say times change, but really they seem to have stayed the same throughout the years.
I mean, it's like all those TSM fans are like, "Oh man, we suck. Oh god, what are we gonna do with this team, man?" And then, they're first now.
Team Liquid fans are looking over there, being like, they know nothing. It's actually great.
You have no idea what disappointment means. Team Liquid fans are like, I live in the disappointment.
Dude, it's actually so funny. So I was on the analyst desk. Usually I got positive feedback for almost everything I did. I looked at one of the Reddit post discussion threads about a TSM game, and people were like, my God, dude, Scarra gives 0 credit to Hanser, just says Impact sucks. I love Hanser. Scarra sucks, dude. Terrible analyst. And I'm just like there being like, did I really do that? I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I talked to Hanser quite a bit. In fact, he would have been my first game MVP, but they decided to give it to Bjergsen. But the TSM fans are pretty
they're cutthroat.
Yeah, they're pretty cutthroat. They're very passionate. Yeah, go us.
I was actually at the TSM game today at LCS. Watched the TSM versus FlyQuest games. No, wait, TSM versus FlyQuest. Yeah, FlyQuest. That was interesting. A lot of TSM fans in the crowd.
There's always a lot of TSM fans in the crowd.
You know, esports just needs better chants. That's the thing. Esports now for League of Legends has existed for 6.5 years, and the best that the whole community has ever come up with is to say the 3 letters in their acronym.
That's true.
7 years, guys. 7 whole years, and you guys haven't figured out any other, anything else.
And to be honest, I look at all the other teams, and it's like, you really can't, the chants don't come off the tongue really. You can't be like C9, TSM comes out great.
F-O-X.
Yeah, or I think COG is the second best.
Yeah.
But then TSM is just the best chant you could possibly do.
Yeah.
They got the perfect acronyms. I know Reggie in his back cave thought about this 6 years ago. Was like, we're gonna call it Team Solo Mid, because in the future when they chant our name as we're the best North American team, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I have nothing wrong with the original TSM chant thing. I think it's a good chant. I just want more something else.
You know how? Okay, I used to. For people that don't know, I used to be a big Houston Rockets fan. I grew up in Houston, Texas. My family to bond over sports. We didn't really bond over much else. We went to watch a lot of Houston Rockets games. Especially my parents love Yao Ming because they're both from mainland China. They're just like, that's a guy we can support.
He's Chinese.
No, but like that's how it works,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's huge for the Chinese community. So we used to watch a lot of Houston Rockets games, and you know, whenever they're down and like they're getting like what should we call it to the last moments of the fourth quarter, people would be like defense. Defense. And I was just like, it'd be cool if we had that kind of chant. It'd be like as the Baron the Baron fight starts to like. They're like, I don't know, what would they say?
Baron pick. Baron steal.
50-50. 50-50. Just start like chanting it like that, you know? Like, yes! I can't wait for it. I feel like
50-50.
That's
Yo,
how
I'm gonna start this.
That's how I feel when I watch a lot of LCS games. It's like, yes!
Oh, don't throw. Don't throw. These are like the lamest, like, please don't fuck up type chance of all time.
Well, I'm just gonna say I saw
a
lot of Baron steals today. I saw Dardoch steal a Baron. I saw like Smithy steal. Like Smithy literally died, ran straight there, jumped over the pit and stole the Baron and died again. I'm just like, I mean, I guess like, yeah, I don't even know what to say.
Holy moly, Smithy, yeah, that's dedication. Dies, he resurrects. He's like Jesus. Dies for CLG
he died for CLG sins. I agree.
Yeah, he died for CLG sins.
So Josh, what do you want to talk about while we're waiting for Mark?
I don't know. Well, so there is a funny story that you have to tell the people about how you went home yesterday and you found 2 dogs in your apartment or your house.
So we live with, for the most part, I'm not huge on having multiple animals in the house. I think having 1 pet or 2 pets is okay. People I live with, Chris and Yuna, are pet obsessed. You know, they're the type of people that you're like, we gotta have 3 cats, 6 dogs, and like a parakeet. And I'm just like, you know, I'm cool with the cat that we already have, and like maybe we add 1 more, but we need like a bigger place because like the current place isn't that big. And there's like, I need 7 dogs. And so like, Yuna goes out for a walk, and the plan was he goes out, he comes back, he's gonna shoot some content with Chris. Okay, he goes out, I get a Skype message, come downstairs. I'm just like, what does that mean? Like something happened, someone burned something in the kitchen, they need my help.
Yeah.
And so I go downstairs and I hear the words as I'm walking down. Yuna says, he's not gonna like this. I'm just like, what? There's 2 stray dogs in my living room. I just look at them and I look at like the 2 people. I'm just like, we're not keeping these.
Yeah. Wait, they weren't even stray dogs. I saw that one of the dogs had a collar.
Yeah, well, but apparently they had been wandering the streets for like hours, you know, or like at least an hour. And I was just like, no, keep them in the garage. And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then like as I go to sleep, I like check my Twitter, and they're like on our couch, like laying down. He's like, hey guys, nothing much, Yuna here, just watching Super Bad with my new dogs. I'm just like, wait a second, like they go. So the plan was they would take the stray dogs in for a night, and then they go to the whatchamacallit? The pound, and then like they just drop them off in the morning, and they're just like, I almost cried when I did it this morning. I was just like, don't get attached. Jesus.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
But yeah,
so,
I can't.
Congratulations on your new 2 pets.
No, I was actually, when I woke up this morning, I'm like, there's no way. Please, dear God, I did not want like more pets. Like having to explain to the landlord, who it was like already a real hassle to get our cat accepted by him.
Oh, okay.
That we have 2 new pets would have been just nightmare.
So for some of you guys Melee fans, because I saw it in the chat, B7 top 8 is happening currently, and I was in the LCS. So I was in the LCS this morning because I had a couple of my Smash friends. If any of you guys watch Smash, you have D1 and MarkZ, who are both involved in the Smash scene, and they were like, yeah, we're going to LCS, come join us. So I went there, and basically we just all pulled up our phones, and we're like trying to watch LCS on the big screen while watching it on B7 on our phones. Yeah.
Are there any heavy hitters there?
Yeah, so I only caught a couple of sets. So I caught the Moon versus Leffen, and Leffen...
All right, man.
Like smack the Moon around, and then the last set I watched was the Moon and losers against AMSA. But yeah. So for any of you guys who know like D1 is a commentator and MacD is a sponsored player by Splice, I think. So.
He actually did pretty well for himself in the last 1.5 years, right? In terms of like the rankings.
Yeah. Well, McCain's kind of been on the downswing.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
He hasn't had the best.
Don't let him hear. Well, I mean, let him hear me say that. I got his back. You know, I met the guy. He's really cool.
Yeah, he's going through.
Okay, but for people who don't watch Smash like me, so I was asking Josh the other day. I'm just like, how much would it take for me to sponsor the biggest Smash event in history? And he's like, he looked it up because there's a website that shows you the largest prize pools ever, including Evo. I think the largest is currently at like 30,000, 35,000. And it's so cheap. If I wanted to throw like the biggest tournament in like the esport history alone, all I would have to do would be reach into Cutie Pie's bank account, get his like monthly earnings, drop it down, and get his daily earnings.
Yeah, daily
drop it down, and suddenly like we have the biggest
Smash tournament of all time.
Yeah, isn't that like crazy? Like I can't believe it's that cheap. I'm actually surprised more sponsors haven't come in and been like, "Yo, dude, we want to sponsor your event. How much would it take?" Oh, wait,
that's
peanuts?
Yeah.
Nothing? Awesome.
Yeah, it's like literally like you're going into Five Guys and they have just free peanuts. That's exactly how much it costs to run the biggest Smash tournament of all time.
Right. You know, you got like Dota Invitational, you got like these CSGO majors, which are like $1 million tournaments, or like at least $250,000 tournaments. You got like world finalists for League, which is like 4 or 5 million or whatever it ended up being last year. And you got the biggest tournament ever. Evo's not even like the biggest money tournament. It's like it's like $20,000. Like that's just. I feel like that's kind of depressing. Like I understand the grassroots scene and all that stuff. It's cool. You guys grew from the ground up and all that stuff. But I'm just surprised because the viewership is there, and I'm really shocked that like a bigger sponsor hasn't come in and been like, let's just throw a $30,000 tournament.
Yeah, it's actually crazy because like the big tournaments like Evo get crazy amount of viewership. Like it's comparable to LCS, if not better than LCS sometimes. And like,
yeah, and if the LCS could pay $40,000 a week for their production, that would be like they love it, you know?
Yeah.
Like the LCS pays like $40,000 like not even a day for their production. Their production costs are insanely high.
Yeah, when I think about the difference in terms of like maturity in terms of the esports level between like League and Smash, it's like so far apart, right? Like Melee, there's only like a handful of actual full-time Melee players.
Right, and when you think about it, Mango probably makes more off his like Twitch than he does off of winning events.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's insane. Like
that's why he doesn't go to locals. It's like, why would I go to a local if I can just make more money by actually just streaming instead?
Oh, he's starting a slippery slope for pro players now.
Yeah, he's gonna be the next Double Lift. He retires. He's like, fuck.
All I'm saying is this is the first esport where I've ever actually been able to be like, I could drop money to host the largest event in the esport history. And I could do that without needing an investor.
Dude,
you know?
The PLT Invitational.
Sick.
We just bring a bunch of Melee players here. We're just like, hey, you know what? We'll pay you guys each a couple $1,000. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Dude, if they would all accept, right?
100%.
If I was like, okay, look, I'll pay for your flight, your travel, and I'll give you upfront money to compete in a specific invitational event, 16 players only, here's the invite. They'd be like, begging me for the key. Like, please give me the invite. I need the golden ticket. Willy Wonka, please. It's
oh God, it's actually so depressing how small. Like
so Josh is a big Melee fan. I'm just like kind of a very casual fan. I like watch from the side, like the bushes. And I'll watch like the Evo events. I'll watch like a huge Smash events like here and there, but not really on the same level at all.
So we've been talking about Melee for a while. If you guys are just joining us, if you guys have no idea what the show is about, let me talk to you guys about it.
It's a Smash dedicated
show. It's a Smash show. We're changing it up. We're only going to be talking about Melee from now on. That's it? No. So post-League time is clearly about League of Legends. We're going to be talking about NA LCS games later once Mark gets here. He should be here earlier. Let's see. What's the Mark timer at? 13 minutes?
As soon as Mark arrives, he arrives anywhere between like the 10-minute mark to like usually the 30-minute mark. So he should be arriving shortly.
Yeah, shortly, whenever that means.
And as soon as he arrives, we'll be breaking down the analysis. I know a lot of people are going to be like, Scarra, dude, I saw Beyond the Rift this week with Acadian. You guys had some interesting predictions. And by interesting, I think this is the first prediction episode where I got more than 50% of my predictions wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like some of them you couldn't have even bet on. It's
there's no way.
FlyQuest losing. And it's like the first game. It's like, yeah, I guess you could have predicted that if you were like really smart or from the future.
Yeah. And then like, C9 loses to P1. And
but like some of them you're just like, okay, there's no way. And, but even I'll take it if I'm the type of person who puts my predictions out there and I'm wrong. It's fine, dude. I was wrong for BTR. Next time, if you guys want a better bet, if you're gambling money on my predictions, one, you're already making a bad decision. But two, you should just predict the opposite of what I predict.
People are asking us to 1v1 in Melee.
No, it wouldn't be close. Like, I've watched this guy play. I haven't played in like a couple years. And even when I did play, I was not playing like anywhere like good.
Yeah.
So there would be no chance I'd be like, maybe if I drug Josh and just put the controller in his hand and I take pictures of myself winning.
I'm like drunk out of my mind trying to play.
and even then it'd be like maybe he still beats me.
Yeah. I actually could, if we ever wanted to actually do this, I have a stream set up so that I could hook up my CRT to the computer. I'm just saying, at the end of PLT, we should just start a salty suite. A salty suite at the end of every week? We invite D1 every week. We invite all the local LA players, and I throw down $100 a week. People would be so down for that, actually. Wait, really? Yeah, I bet. Josh 3-stock Scarra, 12-stock. I bet I could 12-stock Scarra. I bet I could do it. 12-stock? Yeah. 12-stock? I could 12-stock you. There's no way. I think I could 12-stock you. Well, maybe I'll set it up for next week. Because I don't have all the stuff set up right now. But here, I'm going to show you guys. So this is what our production looks like. All right, you got to reset it. If you mess up, we are moving. See, this is our beautiful living room with our studio lights. That's the TV. Say hello to chat. And then we have our beautiful CRT here. That's our entire Smash setup, actually, in its entirety. Oh, wait, how much are local events in terms of Smash? How much? It just depends on how many people go. So like, what's the entry fee like? Like $5? No. Entry fees are anywhere from $15 to $20. Oh, really? Yeah. Because like usually it's like a $10 venue fee, and then the other thing is actually registering. So the venue takes that big of a cut? I think so. Ugh. Yeah, I don't know. Because like you need to have a pretty big space to have a. I don't know. Our invitational right here, dude. The venue won't even take a cut. We'll just throw it. Just have like 100 people show up. I was just gonna be like, that's why Smash players are broke, dude. The venues are stealing the money. Stealing all the money, yeah. We've uncovered the mystery of why Smash isn't actually any bigger. It's because of the venues, dude. I knew it. We figured it out. All right, so I'm actually really curious about what's gonna happen in today's power rankings because we had CLG play against Team Liquid. It's gonna be a nightmare. It's like bias versus bias. No. Even then, legitimately, I'm not even worried about that. It's like, okay, I know who I'm placing like in certain positions. I think 2 positions are locked for me, and the rest of the 8 you split into 2 or 3 groups. And that's only my personal stuff. That's without MarkZ. This week's power rankings are gonna be the most random. Yeah, and I know Team Liquid is 10. It's so funny. I know for sure. If I don't put TSM first this week, people are going to get so mad at me. You're going to get death threats from TSM fans. I actually, like, every time I comment about a TSM game, even if I'm saying something nice, I'm like, dude, wow, like, Sven and Bjerg went off this game. They're just like, what about Hanser, dude? It's never good enough. Yeah, it's like, you didn't like my boy Biofrost? You didn't see that wave? That tidal wave? I'm just like, dude, I think they're playing like pretty well. Like, yeah. Tell me how good Hanser is. Yeah, it's like ridiculous. Yeah, we'll see if TSM's actually number 1 this week. We'll see. I'd be curious. TSM's definitely looking better though. Oh no, they're looking a lot better. Yeah. Like I think they're a team that I expected to come into like playoff like top 1 dreams like closer to the end of this split. Yeah. So being able to be in this position halfway through the split is pretty good for them. Yep. Have you watched any other regions at all this year? Not really. Like this is the year where it's just like I don't have that much time because now I'm starting to stream, and for some people who don't know, I started to stream like later blocks. Mm-hmm. So
maybe there's situations where sometimes I stop at like 9 p.m.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes I like stop at midnight. And so like I just don't have that much time because
Yeah,
the last hour or two of the day is there for like reading or like Netflix, and then like I'm back to restarting the day with like more streaming.
Yeah.
And so I don't have that much time. Like I saw Fly. I heard Fly played Talon and LCK. I haven't even gone back to watch that game, and I'm a huge, for anyone who doesn't know, every 2 months or so, I have a new champion that I just love. Like, I just gotta play this champion. And, like, so, like, earlier this year, it used to be AP Nasus. I play AP Nasus every single game mid lane. People actually were just like, please stop trolling me. And I'm just like, look at my win rate. It's like 80%. Now it's down to, like, 71% because I played too much jungle Nasus and I sucked at it. But like, after that, I just started playing a lot of Talon. Like, Talon is my most played champion right now.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. How strong is he? What do you think about Talon?
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually think he's actually really good.
I feel like people have been saying for a while now that like people expect Talon to be played in LCS.
Oh yeah, but it's just like I think it's a champion similar to Shaco where you need to invest some time into it.
Yeah.
And people don't know how good it is going to be after the lethality nerfs. Where Zed is going to be a champion that's going to be stable even if lethality gets nerfed. He's still going to be probably the most premier or the premier assassin mid lane.
Yeah.
So, and people have a lot of history playing Zed. Like myself, even though I know I play a decent amount of Zed now. In season 3, I played Zed. In season 4, I played some Zed. Season 5, like here and there.
Yeah.
Probably accrued like over 100 games of Zed. And it's like if you'd ask people how much they played Talon, the old Talon sucked.
Yeah. You would never play.
Yeah, and the new Talon is like it's very, very specific.
Yeah. Some of the wall jumping stuff, is pretty wonky. So speaking of which, we saw our first Shaco in this splits competitive play. You were talking about it, right? Like
I was literally talking to you about it. I was like, look, Shaco's a very hard pick to play because you need a lot of champion mastery on the champion. You need like 100+ games to get good at the champion. Mm-hmm. Very unique, and someone investing that much into a champion that potentially could get nerfed is like something that a lot of pro players won't do.
Yeah.
And then Moon is like, let me bust out Shaco for the first time, and I'm like in the shower. And I pull in my phone in the shower and I just start watching. I was like, yes, dude, he's gonna start popping off. And then
is your phone all right?
Yeah, dude, it's fine. and then I see him go too. In fact, I see him play like terribly. I'm just like, well.
Yeah. I was so excited too because like every in the crowd too when Shaco was picked, everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's Shaco!" Like people are going nuts, right? And then you watch it, right? And you're like, "Oh, he's got Ignite and Smite. He's gonna go off. He's gonna put so much pressure in the early game."
See, like he kills himself top lane. He kills himself mid lane.
Starts farming.
Yeah, and then by this point, Sven's like 4-0.
Yeah, like,
and then the game's over.
And like the most contribution he had to a team was like he took top turret when they were taking the next and it's like I guess Shaco's not great.
I'll talk a little bit more about that when he gets over here, but Shaco is definitely not something where I don't even like his build. Like I thought
the Triforce build? I thought most people go lethality, right? Like team into lethality.
Yeah, like I watch a lot of Shaco players and I think they all go that build.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of damage. And especially when you're ganking something like a Syndra, having the extra shield is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Dude, Edge of Knight's OP. It literally just blocks.
Super good.
It's not just a little bit. It's like a lot of it OP.
It's
actually so
really
absurdly good. Oh, God.
Am I the one hitting the table, keep shaking the mic, which makes it really... Oh, it might be my feet.
That is 100% Scarra.
Sorry. So, like...
Scarra has, like, restless leg syndrome.
Yeah, so for me, like, I just constantly tend to move. And... sometimes it's really bad in situations like this because my feet are right next to the mic, and so
this is why ideally you would set up the mic to be hanging from somewhere, so that way
assuming we had a more competent production crew, we would have a hanging mic.
Holy moly, that was uncalled for.
But unfortunately, we're stuck with
we're just stuck with this guy. Hey, what's up? That's me. My parents beat that shit out of me when, because I used to do that thing where I don't know what you call it, like vibrate your leg.
Yeah.
What do you call
that? That's
like
wrestle. Yeah.
Shaking your leg or whatever. They would hit me. They would just be like, "Stop that!" I'd be like, "Oh, okay, sorry." And because they were like superstitious about it. Like, were your parents superstitious at all about like random shit?
They wouldn't be superstitious, but my mom literally anytime. So if I was sitting in like a computer chair, I'd be like leaning back, or like anytime I was like leaning over, hunched over, my mom would come in and just stab me in the back. And so like I got good posture because You're ruining our story, Mark.
Yeah, God, Mark, you're ruining everything. We were trying to get through the story. You had to mess it all up.
It was about my mom, about what she used to do to me when I was younger. Beat me.
I'm not doing this one anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, my mom was, like, really superstitious about just, like, random things. Like, she was like, you can't point your bed towards north.
It's
like feng shui thing. Yeah. So she was like superstitious about that, and then she was like, "You shouldn't whistle at night because snakes will come out." I was like, "Mom, I live in Minnesota and it's like winter time. There's no snakes around."
No,
like, I swear to God.
It's the same with mine. But you know what? Let's get on to the main course. The appetizer's over. We tasted it. It was delicious. Now we get to the steak. How are you today?
I'm the steak.
Yeah. How are you today?
What are you?
Oh God, you moved the mic.
Wait, I'm the.
Well, I kicked it a little bit that way, so I fixed it.
I'm the steak with you. We're both the steak.
We're both steak, so like.
Well, maybe I do.
So someone ordered a steak, and they're like, "Wait, I need another steak. Can I get one more steak?"
Okay.
Please?
Well, what do you think the appetizer was? What did me and Mark?
Oh, so Josh is the app.
So Josh is the appetizer.
You guys are probably some kind of like weird salad, some fucked up salad.
Asian salad.
Yeah, but not even a normal Asian salad. Like just a really weird. I don't know.
What order you guys want to talk about?
I think we just kind of go in order of the game. So first up was
our FlyQuest.
Yeah.
I'll do. Okay, wait. I did IMT versus Fox first.
That's fine. IMT Fox,
Oh, we can
FlyQuest
start with
TSM, and then CLGTL, and then let's end with P1C9 because that is something to talk about.
Oh, dude, I think all of these series had something to talk about.
I mean, yeah, all these series. I mean, this is a day. This is a story kind of day.
Oh yeah. IMT versus Echo Fox. We're starting with that.
Okay, let's start with that. Acadian. So.
Oh, what are we talking?
Acadian comes back down to earth. That's this kind of series, I think. Game 1, Immortals won, but it was still a little bit of a struggle. Like Echo Fox had to force a Baron, like Immortals stole. There was like all this kind of stuff, and like IMT protected their inhib. It was still mostly heavily Immortals' favor, and then Game 2, Dardoch kind of crushed. And particularly like Acadian Fed.
Yeah,
so.
that game was. Well, okay, so I just thought, Acadian didn't have the hottest week. Even afterwards on Twitter, he was like, I've never felt this unprepared for like a meta before.
Yeah,
which you've heard in the past is true, and I think there's a lot of teams like this. You know, they're carried specifically by their jungle pressure. So teams like Immortals, teams like Echo Fox, even teams like FlyQuest. If their junglers are underperforming, you're going to see a large dip in the quality of their games.
Yeah, and I think they're so used to the jungler meta right now. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, being like super strong. That like whenever your jungler doesn't seem strong, your team is going to collapse. Like I think Immortals is kind of the same way. This time Dardoch got the better of Acadian, so it's Echo Fox who looks that way.
And I think to a lot of degrees, FlyQuest operates very similar.
I think you can even say TL too a little bit plays that way. Like if they don't get Graves, it's like
it's a nightmare.
There's a handful of teams right now who are kind of like that. So. I mean, I didn't feel like in terms of gameplay there was like a ton of big storylines going on for draft.
For me, the biggest thing in draft was just like their Immortals bot lane just drafted good supports. You know?
that was a big thing.
Not supports that lose lane. I don't.
That's what I was telling you, dude. I said Immortals bot lane isn't bad when they just get decent matchups, but they oftentimes give themselves horrible matchups.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna draft Morgana to Karma. Yeah, maybe I can win this matchup. It's like, no.
I'm gonna pick Janna into Nami. No, like stop doing that stuff.
Yeah, so they picked what, Nami and Karma in the 2 games in the series, and they just won and their bot lane did great.
Yeah.
I think with Cody's son, the best thing that he has in his entire thing, Cody's son isn't like a great team fighter. He's okay, but his laning stats are okay. Like they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Even with these super random support picks where like sometimes they get out of lane, sometimes they don't. Generally, I just think that Cody's son, you should work toward his strengths, which are you get him out of lane with like even or slightly ahead, and then you work with the rest of the team. And because your entire team works on the fact that Dardoch is this hyper-aggressive player who will snowball the game for you himself, the best he could do as a solo lane or as a laner is pressure your lane early to give him the option to invade.
Yeah, and so Dardoch, Like you said, he had like a red invade, like a number of things like that went really well for him. And then after that, like they moved around the map pretty well, and I think it was like 3 or 4 turrets to 0 or 1. So like,
you saw a lot of situations in this series, and I think it was yesterday's series with Immortals, where Pobelter isn't like a rocket lane. Like, he'll like roam and pick up a kill on the side lane, roam and pick up another kill on the side lane, and that's the stuff you kind of want to see from Pobelter, because Pobelter isn't like this hyper-dominant Jensen level player. He's like the person that just like is in the right, he wants to be at the right places at the right times for his team.
I mean, last year I think he was a lot better in lane. This year he's struggling, but he's trying to find ways to get involved. So in game 1 on Jace, he was moving around the map a lot more, and overall that's just all the team needed. So, I mean, that was good. I like the Shen pickup. Flame, I think, looked good today overall in both games.
Yeah, I thought, like,
and he looked good yesterday.
The week, I'm just surprised with Flame, because I think, right, so far, he's shown the best Rumble. I think him and then Zig have the 2 best Rumbles, and then everyone else just pales in comparison. I'm just like, oh, they can't even land ultis, you know? And some of the times it's not their fault, and some of the times I'm just like...
A lot of the comps that people are picking Rumble in are like, no tank, no CC, other than like maybe like your 80 carries ultimate, and that's it. And then it's just like, it's hard to get anyone onto one of those ultimates for more than a second.
And this is the Immortals I like to see, because they finally have consistent lanes. You know? So they're playing like Echo Fox at the beginning of the season, like after the week one. So they have consistent lanes, their jungle does all the work, and then they work off the jungler to do stuff.
Right, and
I think Echo Fox and Immortals are very similar, very, very similar in how they play.
Right, I think the difference is you see basically Froggen and Flame's roles swapped a little bit.
Oh yeah, where Froggen's super dominant mid laner, top 5 in the league, and Flame probably hitting top 5, but I would say like maybe more toward the middle.
Right. Well, I think you put Froggen still in the middle a little bit too, because so here's the thing: Froggen had good series today. Now that we're flipping on to Echo Fox a little bit. Froggen played both games.
Yeah, pretty well.
Pretty well, but that's the problem where like he pretty well doesn't cut it in terms of winning games. And if Acadian isn't the carry, Froggen's not the carry. Whereas when you look at FlyQuest, hold on, listen. Like when you have FlyQuest, like High can pop off and Moon can pop off, right? When we're talking about jungle mid cores, it feels like Froggen rarely pops off on his own and carries.
Okay, if we're making the same comparison, in FlyQuest, High can pop off, Moon can pop off. But Balls doesn't feed his brains out.
Bro, oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Froggen's the problem. I'm not saying Froggen's the problem.
Looper had some League of Legends this week.
He was playing some League?
Yeah, he was. Well, he tried.
He didn't know what he was playing. He might have been on Dota. Maybe this is the Han patch. You don't know.
I'm just saying, Looper had a bad
week.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it's a bad whole week, because I don't remember too much of his games, but I don't remember him in a lot of the games.
The last series previously that we covered, he basically was just stuck on tanks, and Acadian couldn't do anything. This time is kind of a similar story, but like he got abused by Dardoch this time. Where Dardoch, like in game 2 in particular, he like had the repel into lane. He tries to flash the Maokai W, just pulls Maokai on top of him,
and then he dies.
Yeah, and then he dies. So his Swain was like useless this time.
So yeah, maybe he got taken advantage of by another jungler, but it feels like if you're like that good of a player, you don't go for it.
Well, to be fair, I mean, even Impact got fucking benched. I mean, we'll get into that later. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent. But yeah, game 2, Dardoch just like got the first kill top.
Dardoch just
got
ran with the
Moby
game.
Boots, goes back. Acadian's trying to counter jungle. He's like, nah, dog, I got Moby Boots. You're dead. Then like ganks bottom, like runs behind them.
That was literally the Dardoch show.
Yeah,
the 7-1-10 Elise game. And to be honest, how many Elises have we seen in the LCS? It's very rare.
So I actually talked about this on the desk. I'm surprised we don't see more Elise, because people are running so many lethality heavy comps that just put Elise in your pool, and she usually fits the comp fine in terms of what the comp wants to do, and then she usually brings the magic damage.
I think a lot of people are scared because if you're not ahead when you face check the other AD, or you find the other AD jungler in like the river, a lot of times you get overpowered.
Right. So like her 1v1ing potential, or even just like I shot my thing in there, my W in there. Okay, now I got to walk in. That's terrifying. That's terrifying once your Voidling's down, or your Spiderling.
And it just feels like a lot of the other ones could be more effective, and you don't need to pop up as hard as you do on Elise to be effective. So, like, we saw the best case scenario with Elise, the 7-1-10 Elise.
Right.
But how's the Elise look like 1-0 to another 1-0 jungler? Probably, like, not that good, honestly.
Yeah. So Elise is definitely something you need to kind of go off with, or it just needs to be enabling your comp. I don't think Elise herself like needs to go off, but she's going to underperform her jungle.
But I think she's definitely a viable pick, especially with like a lot of Zed and a lot of Jace in the mid lane right now.
Right.
Jace priority shooting sky high for a lot of teams. And when you need like that mixed magic damage as well as if you have CC from the jungle, that's super good.
Well, like, we see people almost prioritizing in NA at least Nidalee over Elise, which I don't understand. Like, I think you should be prioritizing Elise over Nidalee if you want to bring a magic damage threat, where we've seen more FlyQuest than anyone else kind of bringing that Nidalee.
I think a lot of these players are just like Nidalee players, you know?
Yeah, well, she was broken for a long time.
But these are the types of players who have like hundreds of games on Nidalee, and not like hundreds of games on Elise. Elise was like the god pick in seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But then in seasons like 5, 6, she was. I think there's like
she was always like B tier.
Always good.
Yeah,
but never like the best pick. Like she wasn't like the Rex side, you know?
Yeah. That said, even though Immortals kind of crushed them, it still like wasn't super clean. They had like one really bad engage in game 2 where they flubbed it, and then their like formation got all messed up. Pobelter dies, and then like Echo Fox tries to take the top inhib, but then they overstay. Pobelter respawns, they chase down. Like it wasn't necessarily like the cleanest series, even though Immortals kind of destroyed the early games.
I want to give it to them because we're starting to see what type of team they can be, and a lot of it is just based on the fact that their lanes don't feed.
Right,
right. Without Dardoch interacting with them, their other lanes are just even, or like slightly losing, or in bot lane's case, they were like slightly winning.
Right. I was gonna say, I mean, it hasn't been too long of a streak that they've looked good. It's been about 2 weeks.
Yes.
So we need to see more out of them because a lot of teams do seem kind of streaky. Because who knows? Maybe Pobelter reverts to like weeks 1 through 3, and he just gets crushed in lane, and Dardoch's
and maybe their bot lane starts picking Janna and like Morgana and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that was even this week.
And it's not that good, but I think that they at least kind of have they look like the old Echo Fox, you know? And they have the same problems as them. Like, they're late game shotgun, they have 50-50 Barons and stuff like that, but...
When you say old Echo Fox, you mean from this split?
I guess this split, yeah.
Yeah, because old Echo Fox is
just
like,
whoa. They didn't get to the Baron part.
So that's actually what's scary, is Echo Fox, this series, kind of reminded me of old Echo Fox, where, like... Acadian didn't do anything. Your top laner didn't do anything. Froggen looked good. And your bot lane didn't do anything.
I guess it's because Acadian went like 05.
Yeah, Acadian died in the other jungle twice.
That reminds me of the old Echo Fox too. But that's like a harsh criticism.
I'm not saying they are old Echo Fox.
Like harsh criticism.
I'm saying that this series kind of like confirmed what you and I had said. Where like Acadian carries this team, and when Acadian doesn't go off, what does this team do?
Then they need their top lane to be stable.
They need to find some, like, the top laner and the mid laner don't get out of lane and do enough other stuff. Like, they'll do fine in their lanes.
That's true. Their side lanes won't do other stuff, and Froggen doesn't do other stuff, really, without his jungler.
Right. Like, if your jungler's ahead, like, if Acadian gets the lead somewhere and then he's like, hey, Froggen, come with me, we're going to do this play, Froggen will do it, and he'll execute that play well. I don't know. And I understand it's hard when your jungler's, like, kind of feeding, which is, like, what was happening in this series.
Okay, well... And to be honest, I think the second game was like just a very, very snowballing game. Like,
right.
I don't even take that into consideration. The first game, Dardoch still played really well. So overall, our last opinions on this, Immortals played pretty well. They still have problems, you know, like other lower tier teams, but they're working their way up the rankings alongside COG.
Yep.
And they're looking like they found out a way not to feed before Dardoch gives them the early game.
Yeah. That's
pretty much how I see it.
And Echo Fox used to say if it's more than a bad week, it's odd week Echo Fox, so that means next week they go 2-0 convincingly, and we think they're great again.
God. I really hope that happens just so I could be like, it's not true. There's no such thing as superstitions. It's not a thing.
You guys were talking about your parents being superstitious right before I walked in.
And
you got it too. It's just a different superstition.
I don't believe it. Next week, Echo Fox will not go 2-0.
We'll see about that. God. They're going to go 2-0 next week. I look forward to it. Good luck. So anyways, going to move on to the next one, which is the FlyQuest vs. TSM series. So this was a best of 3. It took a long time. And it was a pretty good series. I actually didn't hate it. I don't know how you felt about it. But
it was... You saw good things about both teams, and you saw the things that they need to work on.
Right, so in the first game, it was kind of just like...
The Shaco's player, yes!
Yeah. I mean, first game, they picked Shaco. It looks awful. We'll dive in a little bit more into the game. Second game, Moon gets Graves, looks great, starts popping off. FlyQuest gets a little shaky, even though they were supposed to win this game, and then they went off some crazy-ass backdoor.
Oh, God,
and then Game 3 is more or less just kind of the TSM show, where they just consistently made plays over and over, and FlyQuest did their kind of FlyQuest crazy shot calling, but it wasn't enough. So that's kind of the series.
Okay, let's go
overall.
break it down a little bit. First game. Wait, what specifically happened in the first game?
The
again?
Shaco!
Oh, yeah. Why did I even forget about I wanted to forget about this. So for me...
Yeah, you blacked out. You're like, Shaco's a good pick. I didn't watch that game.
I even hyped up Shaco. Was it to you guys last night?
Yeah, you've been hyping up Shaco all over the place.
I was just like, dude, Shaco's a good pick.
He's going off in solo
Yeah,
queue.
in solo queue, he's got like one of the highest win rates. There's two like in the top 11 in North American Challenger. And before this, they were like master players. Like, these are guys who are literally telling me it's an OP pick, and I have like the top tier challenger players in the jungle begging me to ban Shaco every game. And I'm just like, well, it's a hard pick to transition into competitive because you need a lot of games for champion mastery, and it can be easily banned out. So I don't expect to see it. But Moon busts it out, and what does he do? Buys like the wrong items and like doesn't do anything. Literally ints, kills himself.
Yeah, and I think one thing I liked about TSM's draft was they took Syndra last to kind of bully the Corki, and whenever you have one of these kind of like weird junglers who kind of preys on like people not quite knowing how to deal with it or having like different gank paths and things like that, having a really strong abusive mid laner is great because it creates this like kind of power vacuum that you need to respond to. And so Moon went for an early invade that got scouted out, puts him on the bot side of the map. Bjerg knows to be careful about that so he doesn't let himself get ganked. He starts destroying high in lane, almost taking the turret like alone at 8 minutes, and then that just keeps sucking Moon into that area, and it doesn't let him go influence side lanes too much.
Yeah, I thought that was a big problem. It's just that High just lost lane by too hard. Like that matchup is not that one-sided.
It's bad.
Bjerg just played better. Like, that's just how it was.
Right, and that this is like one of the concerns that people always talk about with FlyQuest coming into the scene was like, oh, what happens if they can't match up in lanes? Mostly that's not the case.
Yeah, but
this was a game that they did lose because
there's like there's like a very high tier of mid laner when you hit the Jensen zone, like the Jensen Bjerg zone.
The Jensen, Crown, international, basically good international players.
Yeah, and so like I would say Bjerg is like below Jensen in terms of mid lane, in terms of performance, the split. And once you hit Bjerg, that's the guy who's going to test you to see if you're good enough.
Yeah, and then there were a couple close fights because High actually played team fights really well on Corki.
Oh, there was like the dragon fight where they're like chasing him down, trying to get the kills.
Yeah, and so like it was basically like Sven versus High, where like if Sven could assassinate High, TSM won the team fights, and then if he couldn't, High would like kind of carry the team fight. So it was really close. I think Altec played well too. He had like a lot of good virus ults onto Bjergsen. So like it was a really close team fight.
Except for Hanser exists, and he's on a tank that's literally unkillable. Half the times I see Hanser play, if he's on a tank, I know he's going to go off. He's going to be like 1-0, and he'll be the tankiest 1-0 tank you'll ever see in your life. He's 1v5 in backline. Literally, boom, there it goes to Shaco. Boom, there goes.
So why is the Shaco on the Nautilus? Well, he was just like killing the Nautilus.
Well, it's because he like tried to get to the backline and then tried to get out.
He didn't hit the backline in a single fight, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, it's because he got super scared of Syndra. He tagged Syndra once and got like one hit on the gank, and I was just like, oh well, there you go.
Yeah, but I mean that's the problem is like, why not an Eve there or something? You know,
they went for the risky pick. He built an item build. I don't think it's that good. Like I heard the Triforce build isn't as good as like the lethality build. Well, but I don't know Shaco that much, so who knows? And then it didn't work out. A very high risk like champion, and they weren't able to get it. To be honest, when you're playing with Shaco, you want to have lanes that help you set up.
Yeah.
So usually your mid lane, you'd ideally want a Syndra or like a TF, and that way you like flash gold card, flash stun, and then the Shaco comes in, boom, you're dead.
Right.
But they had a Corki, so his way of setting up is like exhausting by valking in. I think that's not ideal.
Right, and he was so far behind in laning phase that wasn't even an option. The other person I think deserves a lot of credit is Sven. He actually basically carried TSM's early game. He like made the early kill top, made some plays around mid, made some plays around bot. He was like 4-1-0, and then he like we said, he sold out high in a couple team fights. So pretty beast performance out of him.
That was on Lee Sin.
That was the Lee Sin game.
Yeah. I actually think I've always thought Sven's Lee is one of his best champs.
Yeah.
And even when you're looking back at last Worlds, he had one of the best Lees at Worlds.
Right. I think he has one of the best Lees, like just straight up kind of.
Yeah, and so even if Lee isn't like the best pick, because right now, like Dardock said, the best picks right now are Graves and Rengar. I think Sven can still perform on Lee.
Were you gonna say Rengar? Because I was about to talk about game 2.
Well, I say he can perform on Lee.
Right, but okay, I didn't know. You kind of ended the sentence like there might be another part coming.
Yeah.
Something else.
The part is even if he can't play that well on other picks.
Okay, yeah.
And then we go to game 2.
So game 2 was like the complete opposite, where it's like Hai and Moon get smashed in their mid jungle matchup, and then game 2 was like Moon crushes the mid jungle matchup. Hai does fine.
There's a lot of Rengar players in North America. I did not want to see them play Rengar.
So I think you still have to play it. I don't think you can just ignore the pick. I think it's too strong. Even like when they look bad, it still does stuff. But like there's so many. It's like Rainover, Sven, Smithy.
Oh god! When I see one of those 3 on it and they don't have the Shen shell, like the Shen ulti to like make sure their initiations can't flub up. It just looks like
half the time, even with the Shen.
Yeah, it looks so bad. Like, I feel terrible watching it. I'm just like, oh my god. But I don't know if it's necessary to pick it, but I guess that they have to. Probably in scrims it's working out a lot better for them, but then on stage it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. So this game, C9 started, or FlyQuest started really well. TSM wins a dragon fight to bring it close to even. A lot of the game is really, really close until like around the 22-minute mark.
Wait. Before we go too deep in the game, did you like this draft from TSM? I thought it was really
I thought
bad.
the Renekton was stupid. I didn't, because like the way they drafted it was weird. Like, okay, they early picked Nautilus after Maokai Shen bans. It's the next best tank available. Why pick the Renekton then? Like, was there nothing else a priority that you really wanted? Was there really nothing to take in terms of like that you could hide it later? Because Renekton's not getting banned.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like if you're gonna take a Renekton, okay, you should pick a jungler that helps camp the Renekton lane. But since Rengar's up, they had to take Rengar, I guess, instead of something like Elise. You remember Elise Renekton?
Yeah, that was the level 3. You're dead.
That was the duo where your top lane didn't exist. He did not have fun. He didn't play the game.
Yeah,
and I thought it worked. That also worked like decently well with the mid lane pick, but. It's like, I don't think Echo works well with that comp at all. And I don't think TSM has...
I thought the Echo was fine, because they basically have a dive comp with Rengar, Renekton, Echo, Ash shoots the arrow to pick a target, and then you just try and blow somebody up.
I hate that, though, because it's like, there's no front line.
Well,
like,
that's what I was going to say.
The Rengar Echo is fine, but usually if there's a Shen in there, you're like, oh, this comp is amazing.
Or any other tank, really. Like, even like a Poppy could potentially do just as well. And the thing about the Renekton is too, like, it's getting played internationally other places, but it's almost always played as a control counter.
It's kind of picked to like Rumble, right?
To melee, to carry tops. He's like a control counter to melee tops, where it's like, we'll pick Renekton, he wins the lane, and then that'll stop the carry top from getting like too far in the head. So like they did it into Camille, they did it into Rumble, they do it into like things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's good at doing that. And especially if you have a jungler like Elise, if you're playing Rumble, you're not living. Like on a tower dive, you are just dead. But if you're playing a tank, you don't have many options. Like the Renekton's a cool pick, but he can only pressure for like a 20 CS lead.
Right, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nautilus is still way better tank.
The worst thing is, the way C9 played out this game was so bad.
FlyQuest.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
I know. I did it too.
The way FlyQuest played out this game. This is literally their strategy. All right, we're going to run it down mid. And we're going to keep running it down until we win.
I mean, to be fair, they're against a 1-3-1 comp, and they want to force action around mid, and then they want to kite back.
Is, once you get all the way to the inhib, what is TSM's only win condition? Getting
TV
multiple
flank.
flanking angles. And what is the hardest lane to push down if you're trying to ward against or deal with multiple flanking angles? It's the mid lane. Because you got flankers from the right side, the left side, on like both openings.
The thing was, the one, so like, FlyQuest is like kind of winning this game, and then they have that one fight where Hai pops off like real hard.
Yeah, he gets a
pentakill. Yeah, and they get the mid inhib, and I think they put both Nexus turrets off that push too, right? Or maybe that was later. Either way, then they run it down mid again,
and then Hai gets opened up by Renekton and he dies.
No.
Oh wait, he doesn't die.
No, Moon fucking, instead of kiting back with Karma Ori with a Nautilus tank and like your damage comp, he goes and flashes past the divers to try and soul out Wild Turtle.
Oh,
you have a comp that melts front to back. They have a dive comp. Why are you trying to kill their AD carry? That's not even the threat to your team. The threat is the Echo and the Renekton.
Are you sure? Because I remember TSM uses Turtle very much like a frontline threat.
yeah, game 3.
In a lot of situations, I feel like
3.
Turtle actually creates more threat than Hanser. He's actually...
Yeah, anyways, that was just a horrible team fight by Moon. It almost cost him the game because he doesn't even finish off Turtle. He just dies, and then like C9 or Fly. God damn it, FlyQuest can't kite out. And then TSM gets 2 side inhibs off it, and you're like, oh great, now TSM's so far ahead in map pressure.
Now there's no way they can lose.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, they split push and they lost.
Yeah, they split push trying 2v1 the Nautilus, who's just like dicking around while the rest of the team pushes mid.
So my personal opinion is yes. If you're C9, Hai will make the call to run it back down mid. After he gets the pentakill, he trusts in himself to be able to position well. I think that's relying on that TSM doesn't find the correct flanking angles. The next team fight comes around, Moon does play bad, but they started to realize like their adaptation during the game is like, wait, we're idiots. We have to flank. And so all of a sudden you start seeing these guys coming in from all kinds, like ninjas coming up from like the back and like the right. Ninjas.
No, ninjas.
Not like him. I don't know if he's very sneaky, but
no.
But like, so and they eliminate Hai, or they target him, try to force him so hard, and I don't think Hai has a great way to get away from it if it's just running down mid. Because there's just too many routes. If you're running down top lane, you can pink ward like the back, and then it's really hard for Rengar to get in with Renekton.
I think if you do decent vision control with Karma, Ori, and summoners available, I think you can actually get out of a lot of the engagements.
I think it's possible, but very scary. However, because
I think you need to be able to do that.
Because he's so fed, I think it's okay for him to take the risk once. And he does it once, and they fail, right? They lose it, and then afterwards, he's like, let's just do it again.
I mean, that's the high special. Let's move on to game 3, actually.
Okay,
this is the high special. Okay. Like, just do it again. So, like, game 3, it starts out kind of bad for TSM. Sven just like kills himself mid in a random 2v2. Clearly awful at Rengar. Oh no, that was actually game 2.
That was game 2.
Yeah, that was game 2. Anyways, game 3. Well, he gets Rengar again in game 3. I got confused about that, but it's going pretty well for FlyQuest, and then TSM wins a dragon fight 2-0. They get dragon, they get bot turret, and they start kind of getting control of the game. And a lot of this game was the fact that like whenever TSM had to do like a set play, they executed it well. And FlyQuest has a lot of like crazy spur of the moment shot calls, but those aren't as impactful as set plays. And TSM always won set play situations.
Is Hanser being on a tank going to turn into a meme pretty soon?
Isn't it already?
Yeah, I feel like it is. I just think that them having the stability of him on a top lane tank, similar to like C9, where impacts on a top lane tank, just provides so much for them. Like these high execution comps are not something that TSM and a lot of other teams can play at the moment, but I don't think they should stop trying it.
Right, I just don't think you maybe try it against your best competition. Unless like unless it's the correct draft.
Yeah.
If you have the choice between standard comp and a high execution like damage comp, maybe go towards this one against good competition.
I want to talk more about this specific idea when we go to the P1 series.
Right.
Because there was a draft where I was very interested in how that one worked out. But for the most part, I do agree with you. I think that maybe against this team, it's not worth it. But I don't know. You also tend to learn a lot if you do go for the higher execution comp.
Right.
And so I kind of understand it. However, what have we learned so far about TSM? They can play the standard comp with Hanser on the front line. And if Sven's not on Rengar, he looks pretty good. I think on his other picks, even his Kha'Zix is a little bit off, but I think his Ivern and his Lee is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, and Bjerg, I think, has been playing pretty well.
I think Bjerg's been playing actually super well. And so, like, this game had the fourth, like, so, you know, TSM swaps to the bot side. For some reason, Ball sits under the turret. They trade turrets, and then, like, FlyQuest tries to force down mid, but they have no mana on like anybody, and then TSM fights and kills them.
I just thought that this game was over, and then randomly like Turtle gets picked.
Well, that's what I was saying. So that's like, you know how you're like, do it again.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is, where it's like, okay, we're TSM, we just killed all of them mid. What are they gonna do? Probably sit back and play safe, and then FlyQuest is like, no, go up mid again, and they just kill Turtle and take an inhib turret, and you're like, what? They're losing.
Yeah. And like even the last team fight, like, and people like when you look at the last team fight, you're like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh God, what is he doing? And you're like, thank God Bjerg can like flash over the wall and like play out the team fight correctly, because we need someone who can do that. And Hanser for being frontline, and Sven, you're doing a great job too. Turtle dude, you gotta work on it.
Yeah, that flank was interesting. Could you have just walked behind your tanks on like into the banana brush area? Probably.
The worst thing is it like kind of depositioned their backline, and so it was like not the worst thing.
Well, so yeah,
But it's like,
it came right after they hit a shockwave onto Bjerg, and there's like this tense moment where it's like, oh, maybe FlyQuest is going to go really hard on Bjerg here, and then Turtle shows himself, and they're all like, wait, let's kill Turtle.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, and so he became like a nice bait, but it's like, that's
not proper play.
Yeah, that's not good play. Like it wasn't something where Turtle's like, I'm the bait as soon as Bjerg gets hit with the shockwave here, just so they're indecisive. Focus me and Bjerg can clean up. Like he's not. He may be self-sacrificing, but he's not that smart.
Oh shit! All right. Yeah. So overall, one thing I liked about FlyQuest is like their weird picks haven't been working out. So they played standard the last 2 games, and they looked pretty good. They were just outclassed by TSM because I think TSM just like makes better like hard like this. We're gonna use all our resources on this play.
I think TSM's really good at team fighting, and they kind of always have been.
They're really good at team fighting, and then they're good enough right now with objective control to force team fights. So like they had that one where Bjerg was like off on the flank as they kind of forced FlyQuest to face check at Baron.
Oh, when he was on the left side?
Yeah, when he was over the wall and the rest of his team was coming.
Good.
That positioning was so good.
Oh, and when you're playing Ori versus Ryze, that's a hard matchup. Like Ori needs her team to help set up the Ryze, and right now that used to be the counterpick matchup before Ryze got reworked. At the moment, it's like an even matchup, and the Ryze gets prerogative, especially if you can position very well against it. Like the way you win with Ori versus Ryze, you also stack stuff that can lock down the Ryze.
Yep.
Like what you have stuff like Maokai or Nahlis, you have stuff like Zyra, stuff that makes it hard for him to teamfight and easy for you as the Ori player to be able to set up stuff.
Like a Maokai, Ori, Graves, Jhin, like that's not the easiest thing to play against.
Yeah, it's not.
Because if you get hit by one thing, you get hit by like 4 things.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, usually that's what happens. And Bjerg just played this game really well.
Right, for sure. So overall, TSM looking really impressive. We'll have to see in the power rankings how high they go.
Oh god,
I think this is going to be a good power.
This week is going to be nuts.
This is going to be such a good power ranking week. All right, so ready to move on to the next series? Any final thoughts on FlyQuest? I don't really.
Nah, I think okay, both FlyQuest and C9. We'll get to C9, but we'll FlyQuest in the O2 this week. Does that mean they're a bad team? No. Does it mean that they got problems? Yes.
Yep. I think, well, you can say that about every team in the league.
Yes.
Speaking of teams with problems, TL and CLG, baby.
Woo!
TL's the problem child. This is the kid that you raise, and he's got a crack problem. He's in debt. He's got like 4 kids. I mean, TL's got problems.
They got all right, you know what? It's always with TL, I'm just like, well, it's CLG. I'm just like, dude, they gotta win this series. I think even if you force me to bet on any matchup, CLG versus the worst team in any league, I would still be like, you know, CLG probably wins 2-1. Because whatever happens, they'll always lose a game.
Yeah. So this game, they lost a game. And it was off the back of, like, Piglet looking decent. They get an early game lead. They kind of move around the map and just kill CLG.
You want to know what I think?
What?
It's off the back of Xmethy playing terribly. Like, I think in every single series that you're watching CLG play, if Xmethy is on Rengar or Kha'Zix, he's not playing very well.
Right.
And he used to be like the linchpin. The jungle is so important right now. If you have a jungler that's underperforming, you can't make good plays. Like, and the thing is, CLG keeps trying to make plays when their jungler is like not like setting up the plays for them, and it's very, very difficult. Like they're one of the few teams who can win when their jungler is feeding.
Right. And so game 1, they lost that way. Games 2 and 3, they actually kind of destroyed TL that way, though. Where like there was still stuff where you're just like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah, but I think the adaptation is we put Xmethy on a champion that's not Rengar or Kha'Zix. It put him on Lee Sin, and I think his Lee is actually passable. It's like Sven, right?
Yeah.
But like maybe like a lesser version of Sven. But I feel like he has a way more impact on the champion, and he doesn't like hard feed.
So let's talk about a little bit more about game 1 before we get into the rest of like the lead pick and stuff like that. Game 1, CLG bans Rengar versus Reignover, but not Graves. Then they give Graves away, and then TL's like, "Oh my god, thank you so much," and they first pick Graves.
It wasn't even that. They banned Caitlyn as well. I was just like,
no, the Kate ban's good. Like, what does Piglet look good on this so far? Like, Caitlyn.
He died 3 times to Special Zyra. That was a little bit strange.
Yeah, whatever that was. No,
okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying his Caitlyn's great, but like, what has TL won with? Like, ban what they win with. That's literally all you need to do to beat TL. If anyone team's watching, just ban what TL has won with. You ban Kate, you ban Graves, and you ban like LeBlanc.
I
or
don't
something.
think they need advice to beat Team Liquid. I'm gonna do
That's true. That's true.
I'm gonna
yeah. What am I saying? It doesn't matter.
Like, okay, I agree with you. 100% Graves should have been gone, and that was their adaptation games 2 and 3.
And they shit on him games 2 and 3.
Okay, so just go over all the games. Just
all right, yeah. So game 1, they give up Rainover's best pick. Rainover pass well, gets a massive CS advantage. Dies a little bit early because it's a scrappy game, but then he starts popping off and killing everybody. And overall, TL, though they're not clean and they're pretty awful at skirmishing, Rainover's just like too good, and they start killing people. And
Golden Glue plays one good team fight and it gets like a couple kills.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over.
And then, I mean, honestly, most of the games were like that, where for the first 10 minutes, like everyone was just dying. And then one team just comes out ahead after a couple of those kinds of fights. And in games 2 and games 3, it was
and
CLG.
And he's still bare in the first game, but who really cares?
Yeah, I mean, that's just TL like, oh yeah, we're smashing the game. We just won a team fight. Let's do Baron with 3 people, one of which is a tank. And I think the other one was like a no HP mid laner Echo.
He like, those are the 4 people, but like the Echo had to stop DPS at 80% to get like the honey fruit.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh wow, they're really desperate here.
And then Smithy respawns before Rainover runs there and steals. Like, all right, you guys are just idiots. Anyways, game 2, like they pick Sivir, Nami versus Soraka, Jhin, and just like fight to the death as TL's bot lane. Like, and then they lose it, and then they still keep fighting, and they still keep roaming and putting resources bot lane.
I just think that Soraka is going to be one of CLG's clutch picks. Like,
I think so too.
People just don't know what to do in the Soraka. It's like a pick where you like slam your face into the wall, and like you try to like punch through the AD or the bot lane, and right, the way I see it is like Soraka just amplifies Stixay's strength. And has Stixay been playing bad?
No, Stixay's good.
I think he's like top, literally the second AD after Arrow.
I think between him and Sneaky it's close, but I think Smoothie's better than Afro, so it's easy for Sneaky to look better.
Right. Okay.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's a debate on the second, third spot.
Right.
But I think it amplifies one of their biggest strengths in CLG, and he plays it well. And it's so uniquely hard to play against. Especially if you're not a team that capitalizes well on playing against Soraka.
Well, especially if you're not like a smart team, because Soraka comes in out of nowhere with her ultimate, speeds up out of nowhere, drops a heal on whoever you're focusing, and if you're not like a heads up team, you just tunnel that dude, and then he lives, and then gets turned.
Like, this is how you beat Soraka comps. You 4-man dive them. Because Soraka, when she gets dove, is just like, dear God, please help. My hands are in the air.
You just engage on the Soraka and kill her.
Yeah, but like a lot of teams are struggling to find that kind of coordination to work 4 people bot lane,
right,
or 5 people bot lane, and so CLG can get out of lane again. And we already said a lot of the bot laners this season aren't very good,
right?
Just the bot lanes in general, and so CLG can get away with this kind of greedy Soraka pick, and it does wonders for them in team fights and against a lot of the comps right now. If you can't get poked down mid game, a lot of the teams have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, and so this game was basically Golden Glue after making a decent roam bottom, randomly flashes in trying to finish off Afro for getting a little too aggressive, and then gets killed.
The Cassio.
And then they get 3 kills on Huhi's a fed Orianna, and then they just kind of run them over.
Did Cassio get picked into Ori?
Yeah, he last picked the Cassio into Ori.
That seems really strange to me because for all extents and purposes, the Cassio Ori matchup it's the one meta matchup you won as Ori. Whenever you're playing against Cassio, you want
that's the triangle of control mages is Ryze beats Ori, Cassio beats Ryze, Ori beats Cassio.
Yeah,
it's
but
like the triangle.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was like strange that it's like his best pick was that, you know?
Yeah.
I'm assuming like I don't remember the bans, but I'm assuming like Ryze Corki was banned, of course, and I guess Syndra wasn't a good pick there, so he just went with Cassio. But Cassio, that's a very hard pick, especially if
Corki was open.
Was Corki open?
Corki was open.
I think he should have picked Corki there.
Yeah.
I think Golden Glue has looked his best on Corki.
Cassio's close second, but you're picking it in the counter matchup when you have last pick.
I think he's been looking well on Cassio because he cleans up fights a lot. You know, like you'll remember like Baron fights where he gets a double kill, like jungle fights where he gets like 1 or 2 kills. But how good is he actually on the champion? I don't know.
He's often losing lane.
Yeah,
with it, regardless of matchup.
On Corki, I've seen him win lane, have pressure, like get good stuff happening, and I think that's his best champion. And,
right.
and it matches up well into Ori.
And it still wasn't that clean of a game from CLG. Like they lost a dive top lane like really hard, where like Lorlo was sitting in a brush and like they blew up sticks.
That was actually that was so smart by TL. I think
that was good. That's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't clean from then on. It wasn't like, oh my god, they got this huge lead. CLG's gonna roll.
That's the first time I've seen CLG play a lower like a lower level team or like a lower standing team, and they responded with like a crazy play.
Right, that was a smart play, but then instantly CLG just takes Baron like soon after that play, and then it's just over.
Yeah. They got smashed, but I like that TL found like this way back into the game a little bit.
A little bit, and then they promptly fell way out of the game again. Game 3, there was a ton of fights like all over the place. There's like bot lane fights, top lane fights. TL had CS leads in a lot of lanes, but as these fights kept happening, eventually CLG started winning them harder and harder, and then it just got to the point where it's like they just kept running into it. Went from like 4-4 to like 7-8 to like 20-8. And you're like, whoa, what the hell? And CLG kind of just rolled them, and the whole team actually looked okay in terms of their coordination. Darshan got Maokai.
Yes, everything that I think about in these types of situations is like, okay, where did this kind of fall through for CLG? They did like a top lane fight where like they didn't win very hard, and then Smithy kills himself.
Yep.
For the most part, though, on Lee Sin, he's a lot more controlled. Like I think right now, CLG needs to find like. We talked about consistency for CLG, right? And Team Liquid, like random people are dying left and right. I think on Lee Sin, like Smithy's a lot better at being able to control himself usually.
Yeah.
And because he's a more stable presence, it's easier to make plays around that when your jungler isn't like very variable.
Right. Well, I'd say like Kha'Zix and Rengar, two of the strongest picks so far this year, are both assassins, and you're supposed to go in and make plays. And if you're not 100% in control of what you're doing and you're not comfortable, you die and you look stupid. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of like the Rengars, where it's not a Rek'Sai where like you tunnel in and you knock up, and that's like, I'm doing my team fight thing.
It's just so difficult because it's like in their mind, okay, if your Maokai is diving 1v3 into backline with the support AD and like mid laner,
I should go in.
Yeah, you should go in. But then exhaust exists; they'll never exhaust the Maokai.
Right.
But if you don't go in, the Maokai then just gets chunked for free. So you make the hard decision, and oftentimes it's mistaken because you just go in at the wrong time.
Yeah, so a lot of junglers are struggling with these kind of carry ones, and Lee Sin, though he is a little bit more carry oriented, it's still
he's flexible. He can go in and he can get out.
He's more of a playmaker than a true carry in the sense.
And TL again has this really weird situation where their bot lane just dies to jungle ganks.
Yeah.
Like, even after they get leads or like their jungle pressure's there, their mid lane goes down. It's just. Their bot lane dies to jungle ganks. And I don't think that should necessarily be happening as much as it does.
Right. I mean, like, if it's a well-pathed gank, it's like, all right. But it's usually just like, we're fighting and pushing them in, and we're winning the lane. We're the best. Oh, there's a jungler.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
Like, I remember specifically when I saw FlyQuest bot lane get killed by Sven's Lee, I was like, wow, they were unnaturally pushed up. Like, I very rarely think that of FlyQuest bot lane. But then when I think of TL's bot lane, I was like, oh, last week they were doing this, you know? And
yeah,
like this
every time.
Yeah, this week, oh, they're dead again.
Yep. So takeaways for me, TL, they just, every week something else looks better, something looks worse. This week, Piglet had better carry performances, still struggled, and then like, I don't know. There's just like not much to be like hopeful about.
The thing about TL is, I didn't think about it until you said it before. They're very reliant on Rainover to do well.
Right.
Like, the Rainover has to salvage all the lanes. It's not when you're playing the jungler in solo queue. It's like exactly that. You're trying to salvage 3 lanes that don't know what they're doing. You're like, if I don't carry this game myself, we lose. And a lot of times, I think that's how Rainover is. And I'm not saying Rainover is playing great. He's in situations where he paths really well. His early pathing.
He always gets huge leads.
Yeah. Look at the COG versus first game.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. He's level 5 and he meets Smithy level 3 in his topside jungle.
He's level 6, like ganking mid when everyone else in the game is level 5.
Yeah, but he'll do odd things like, he'll come mid to gank, get double killed when he has a huge lead, or he'll just go top lane and then he gets jumped down by the top laner and dies when he has like a 1.5 level lead on Smithy.
And and actually game 2 had a really tragic thing as well when he went for the level 2 cheese. It was like really smart pathing. And then Golden Glue on Cassidy just misses his first Q, so they can't kill Orianna. And then he just like wastes a bunch of time. And like there's summoners down all over the place. It's just like half of the time he goes for good ganks, his solo laners ruin it. Like how many times have you seen like Lorlo like flash start a gank and he's like, dude, I'm like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh god. He didn't even walk up to that when he was just like peace.
Yeah. So like he'll go for like even reasonable ganks and his solo laners will just kind of ruin it. So he's He's not playing great, but if you put him on like a good team, he would look so much better.
Yes, I think if you put him on any team with stable solo laner, if you put him on like TSM, he looks fantastic. Like straight up, I agree with Katie when he said that like early pathing matters like quite a lot right now. And Reignover is still king of early pathing. This guy,
at least in terms of farm,
yes.
he doesn't always do the most creative ganks, but the problem is even when he does do them, they don't work because often do the solo laners. So kind of tragic.
And for CLG, they did 2-0 the week. They're looking like this just cements to me. I think the biggest takeaway for this week is I recognize that Smithy just like needs to not die. Like it sucks that his performances on these meta junglers are not good, and he's like probably the player who I'm considering performing the worst on the team, and it's costing him a lot of games. On the flip side, I think ᵐᵉᵐᵉ generally has increased his quality of play, especially this week.
Right.
And so he's the third stable element alongside the Huhi and Stickstay show. ᵐᵉᵐᵉ is sneaking in with Darshan, maybe sneaking in a little bit too.
Darshan's still like a little volatile, but it's not nearly the range that Smithy is. Where like, Darshan goes from like not having a good game to having a good game, whereas Smithy goes from like looking like horrible to
like still looking like bad. Okay. Yeah. I think with ᵐᵉᵐᵉ kind of pushing himself up, CLG went from 1-5 to 5-5. I just found that out.
Yeah, they're 4-1, I thought, or is that what it?
Probably in their last 5 games.
Yeah,
I think they're getting better, and a lot of it is just finding like their team just doesn't have players who kill themselves.
What they had before was that they were in a lot of scrappy series and they were losing. They're still in a lot of scrappy series, but now they're winning. And they have 2 weeks now to figure out how to win series, not looking so scrappy.
Yes. They commonly have one game in the series that you're just like, wow, this CLG is fantastic.
And then you have one where you're like,
and then the 2 games where you're just like, oh my god, who they replace the players with? Like this isn't the same team.
All right, so that's going to wrap us up.
The coach of CLG is right there, man.
Yeah, 4-1 in their last 5 games, baby.
That's pretty good.
I believe in Tony.
I know.
Coach 6. Let's move on so I don't get too much weirder. Last series of the day was P1 versus C9.
Oh, I want to talk about this so bad. All right, major points.
All right. Let me just recap it real quick.
Okay.
Game 1 was just overall really good for P1. Like Ryu put on a show, Arrow put on a show. Those dudes styled on them. Meteos was kind of there. Zig was doing well. Like
that's the description of Meteos. Okay, keep going.
He was kind of there. Game 2, C9 gets destroys the early game. Like Contracts is popping off. His solo laners are destroying people, and then Meteos awakens.
Meteos has his best game.
Yeah, and then Meteos wakes up and he's like, "Oh wait, I'm Olaf. I'm gonna run at people and kill him."
The first game, I don't remember the first game being okay for. I remember Meteos literally trying to invade the other jungler at Wolf Camp and dying on the 1v1 scrap to con. Wait, was that what happened? Yes, he was Rengar. Literally, he literally invaded against Contract's Rengar.
Did he die?
And Rengar killed him, and they just fought at the Wolf Camp. And I was just like, what jungler ever does this? And I was like, I was really worried, but then he brought it back. Okay, I want to talk about the first game draft.
Yeah, you go off. You had something prepared. So.
Okay. So the first game draft was really, really interesting. This is one of the times where I was like, I think someone got into C9's draft. They found the secret combination. They're like, this is how we work it. Because what they did is they pinched the bot lane AD pool. And so they made it so they got a non-top tier AD. The other team had the default Ezreal. And then the top lane, they early picked Jace in a situation where the enemy team had Karma Kha'Zix. And so C9's never been known to run very high execution comps to the top lane, especially when Impact's there, isn't on a frontliner. So ideally in that situation, Jace is open, the other team picks Rumble. Guess what's happening? You're picking Jace, top lane gets slammed.
Right. But the thing was with the draft, they prioritized Ryze over matching bot lanes there and taking the Ashe, and the Ashe gets banned out. So you were saying that you want people to pinch AD carries?
No, I'm just saying that's what they ended up happening.
Oh,
so
I thought you meant this is something that people should look for.
No, this is a nightmare situation for C9. They had assumptions going to the draft, and I think P1, this is one of the few times where I think a team got the better of C9 in the draft, to the point where you visibly see in game they're on uncomfortable picks. Top lane had to counter pick himself to be a front line, and bot lane, even though they had Karma, couldn't really shove in to the Jhin lane and couldn't punish the Janna as hard because Ezreal was just very Ezreal just doesn't shove.
Yeah,
it's Ezreal.
Ezreal can't do much about anything about like that. And then, yeah, I think you saw just the fact that they didn't have any kind of pressure in the bot lane really hurt them other places, because at 8 minutes, it's like P1's bot lane just roams mid and helps set up a kill for Ryu to start like taking over the game.
And this is after Ryu like just died. Like the contract.
No, that was first blood.
Wait.
Game 1.
Oh wait,
Game 1 was slower, where he was on Orianna and
did Contracts played? What did he play game 1? Did he play Rengar?
No, it was Kha'Zix.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. Never mind.
No. This is the Ezreal Karma game, but he just was on Kha'Zix. And this is not the game Meteos died early. This is not much was happening early.
Okay, this is the second game. Oh, okay, so I was wrong previously about the first game.
Game 1, you were kind of right, where like they didn't have a great draft and they kind of got exploited. But in terms of what happened in the game, it was the Nami and Jhin roamed out of lane early. They ulted to open up onto Ryze, and they go on him and they kill him.
I thought the adaptation this game, this is what would have been an interesting game to see Renekton. So what happens is C9 needs a front line, right?
Yeah.
Unless their comp looks kind of bad, and they need some way to create pressure. And Renekton can also at some point split against Rumble if he gets too far ahead, and it's like a good lane matchup.
Well, C9 basically has 3 losing lanes.
Yes, and I thought that this was one of the first time I've ever seen C9 get drafted into this pinch. I think Ryze is the only thing where they're just like, it's okay, and I would trust Jensen to win almost all the Ryze matches, because Ryze he's got slightly unfavorable matchups.
Right, and you can't even say he lost to Ryu straight up. It was really influenced by like the early bot lane roam, and then they kind of picked on him a little bit.
I think he was fine, and he's like not the type of person who takes like what all the Ryze players usually take is they take Colossus into LeBlanc. Because
you mean Ori?
Wait. It's the first game. Why they keep?
Why are you so confused, dude? He played LeBlanc game 2.
Oh my god! I keep mixing up the. Oh, yeah,
do you have your notes? Do you need your notes? Do you want? What are you doing with me? Can I get a real analyst in here?
I keep mixing up the 2 games. Holy shit!
You're so passionate, you can't even think straight.
I know. Okay. Why did I think it was? Because he played LeBlanc game 2.
He played LeBlanc game 2 into Ryze again.
I keep missing. All right.
Game 1 was Ori into Ryze.
Oh, yeah, and they roam mid.
Yeah, they roam mid, they kill him, they have control of the game. Meteos goes top, he turns the gang topside, and then P1 are kind of winning the game really hard. They have Baron buff, they run up mid, and then they fuck up trying to end the game way too hard.
God.
And then C9 turns it, and Sneaky starts popping off on Ezreal, and then they get Elder Dragon,
and then they lose the game.
And then they lose a team fight.
They try the 2-man bot lane, and then the other team has 5 people pushing down mid, 4 people pushing down mid.
Well, they killed him. They like P1 wins a fight, and then they rather than defend like 2v4, they try and race, and then P1's like, okay, well we'll recall our Ori and she'll hold you.
But they didn't need to recall the Ori.
They didn't need to, but they did.
They would have won the game.
But I will say, if you're ever in a split push situation with the man advantage, you recall. Almost always.
Yes.
You almost always recall with the man advantage in a split push base race situation, because you can hold and clear waves better, and you don't even need that person to live. It just detracts them from finishing. So.
Oh, the only exception is if they can recall and then win the 2v3 or 2v.
Yeah.
In that situation, you stay and you just eyeball the situation and see if you can out base race, which you can. You can almost always out base race.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a tangent. Let's get into game 2, because this is really the other weird draft one, where like C9 gets a ton of power picks with Jhin, Rengar, Ryze, Karma, and the only kind of weird one's Fiora, because they sub Ray in, which...
Oh, that was... Oh, it's
you want to talk about that first before the draft?
That was so weird. I
didn't like it at all.
I didn't even notice it, because I didn't have the volume on. So like halfway through the game, I'm just like, wait, it's Ray?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Ray, baby.
Oh wow, they're very desperate. Like it kind of.
I mean, Impact has been looking bad. Like, to be fair,
yes, the first series he looked uncharacteristically bad, and the first game he got put on such a bad matchup. He got
bullied by FlyQuest. He didn't. He looked okay versus TL, and then versus TSM, he kind of got taken care of by Haunster mostly. Though it felt a lot more about like execution in team situations. And then, but this series, he got put onto Gragas. He got destroyed in lane.
That Gragas matchup sucks. Like,
I mean, like I said, it's not his fault, but like, obviously something to do with Champ Pool put him on Gragas there that he couldn't take.
There was some overlying coaching problem, or the coach's decision was we got to put in Ray. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with it. The game progresses, and what I didn't see in the initial draft is they picked Kled into Fiora.
Last pick. So C9 bans out a lot of tanks. Overall, they ban Shen and Maokai, and then there's a Rumble ban by P1, and so there's just a lot of top bans, and then they pick Fiora, and I'm gonna guess they did it blind. This is C9. I think they did that because I had the assumption as well that if you put in Ray and put him on a carry champion, then
that's what he needs to be on.
Yeah, he needs to be on that, and then Zig's gonna play a tank and be fine losing the lane and try and make better team plays, but he doesn't do that. He picks Kled, which is like a huge curveball. Which I didn't expect at all. And I don't think C9 was ready for that.
I didn't expect it either because that's a Fiora favorite matchup.
Well, yeah, because I was watching it.
That's a matchup literally where I used to play a ton of Kled. And the only matchup I would beg people to ban Fiora because there's in no situation are you comfortable in that. Like, it's a matchup where you just lose. And that's what Zig did. Like, he got a lot of pressure. He ate the pressure and he lost slowly to the point where Fiora really couldn't pop off. And in team fights, he kind of did his thing.
Right. I mean, at the beginning of the game, Contract's just like, carried because his solo laners were getting people to 200 health, and then he would walk up and he'd be like,
the mid lane one where like he walks up and Ryu like has to take the W back, he's at 100 health, and Contract just jumps on.
And then literally like a minute later he walks top side. Yeah, he goes top side. He goes top and kills.
Yeah, and
kills
then like a couple minutes later on the right side mid where like Jensen snares him, and then they just like 2-man kill the mid laner again.
Yeah, so it looked like things were going really well for C9. But then Meteos starts like kind of getting aggressive. He gets like a 2-for-1 mid, and then like another.
And the thing is, it's like I don't necessarily think he executed a lot of these ganks out perfectly, but he was just at the right places. And then he just started going off. It was like the first game where I'm like, oh, he can actually jungle. Like,
I mean, Olaf as a pick is one where like you just go and like you hope it works out. And then when it starts working out, it starts looking brutal after a minute.
Right, but Meteos has always been the type of player where I'm like, how hard? He's not the type of guy who goes hard in. Like, he doesn't go, like, in the paint,
Yeah.
When you're watching Dark, you're like, this guy's tower diving behind two nexus, or two, towers, tier 1,
These were like skirmishes in the river. This wasn't like, I'm in your shit.
But even then, I remember the situation where he's, like, mid lane, he just, like, runs past, and just, like, keeps going down, and I'm just like, that's pretty good.
There's the time he destroys Sneaky. Like, there's a lot of times he messes up Sneaky.
Yeah, he did that. He did that on purpose.
So yeah. So the big one for me was that I forget exactly when the fight was, but like Ray was all the way at his inner turret in the bot lane. Zig on Kled ults to start a fight, and he doesn't TP. And then, like, 5 seconds later, Kled, CC's Rise, and they instantly blow up Rise, and then they chase through onto Sneaky, they kill him, and they take Baron. And from there, the game's, like, kind of over. And it was like, what was Ray doing? Like, why would you not TP in as soon as you hear that Kled ult? Because a fight is coming. And you're not split pushing. You're not threatening anything. It's not like a decision where it's like, if you guys can back out, I can take this turret.
But it feels like it's just... You expect that though, because they've been working. They work with impact. If you want to get someone,
I'm not blaming.
Yeah, with great TPs, you take impact. You get someone who can split push and carry, you take Ray. And I don't even know if he can do it that much better than Impact can. But
well, that's why I'm so surprised to see Ray in there, because I don't think he has that many more strengths other than like the champions that he might play. But even then, like it just looked like C9 was just not ready at all for that. And then like they would just keep forcing. They would just all and Meteos would run at them, and then like they didn't have quite enough peel, and they couldn't focus down the front line. It was just so surprising. It's like C9 has this huge lead. Meteos starts going off. Bizarro Meteos, Darth Meteos, Sith Meteos,
and
Corrupted Meteos, Edgelord Meteos.
I do think though, P1 just started doing something that is really good into C9, whereas C9. The thing that C9 wants to do is they want to pressure mid lane, and they want to just take jungle 2v2s. Because in any situation, Jensen can outplay them. Like not even so much contracts. I believe in Jensen when it comes to 1v1s and small 2v2s. I think he'll always win. Yeah. But when you start bringing in the bot lane into the equation, the top lane, P1 in this series brought the bot lane mid quite a couple of times.
Right.
And I think that that's really smart. Like if you're not pressuring other lanes, you bring more the numbers advantage mid lane where Jensen's gonna have to dodge like 4 Jhin ultis and like all kinds of stuff.
And he can do that sometimes.
Yeah, and the thing is he's nasty at dodging.
He almost got out of that 8-minute play in the first game, but then he kind of like walked back around, and then like it was like he was out. He was basically out.
Yeah. So he's a hard player to gank, but I like that they look to pressure him because that's something where like you want to throw him off a little bit.
Right, and I think it's a little scary for C9 because we've been saying for a while now that they have a average of a loss in the early game, which is like insane for a top team to have a negative early game. We talk about they don't move around the map that well, and it's basically like if you're kind of even going into mid-late game, they'll usually beat you.
And someone pointed out to me on Twitter that Nasser literally said that C9 had 4 kills on Rengar, and they're crushing mid, and they still can't get first tower.
Yeah,
and the reason
they have I think they have the slowest first tower in the league.
The reason is it's like when they look to make plays, all their plays around mid lane, but getting the mid tower first is very difficult. Like
it's
like because everyone can rotate the mid tower.
It's like contracts will go somewhere, but it's not like Jensen's there with him, or it's not like there's. Oh my God, how many times do you see like a massive 5-man bot lane party? You almost never see that out of C9. And that's literally the standard play for cracking first turret.
It's just Jensen doesn't rotate that well. Like this has always been one of his biggest weaknesses. He is the best mid lane in the league at the moment. But almost all of his strengths comes entirely from the fact that he's exceptionally good at laning and really strong mechanics in the ability and team fighting. Dodging skill shots, hitting skill shots. He is excellent at all these. The ability for him to impact the rest of the map is very difficult.
Yeah, and so takeaways from this series for me is P1, this is going to sound weird because we were talking about how Inori is such an important early game factor for them. They might be better with just a control jungler. I know that the first series I don't put too much weight on it because Meteos just got straight up fucking carried against a not very good team.
Yeah.
But the second series, like they didn't need super good early games. Like the rest of the team did stuff. So I'm not saying there's a jungler controversy yet.
I think it's at this point I trust Ryu, Adrian, and Arrow to play out team fights very well. I think
Zig. What?
And
I think everyone's gonna play him out.
I think Zig has actually impressed me quite a bit. Very, very recently, being able to play all these carries and play them very, very well. Tossing between Gameplay. He's played Gameplay recently. He's played
dude, like
everything. He's played like Rumble.
Such a good role player. Like you give him Kled versus Fiora, it's not like he wins a matchup he's supposed to lose. He loses the matchup, but what does he do? He engages in team fights, which is what you picked it for. He'll do exactly what you pick him to do. Yeah, and it's like the perfect top laner.
And it's very rare that you see him hard feed. In fact, I don't even remember.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you give him a bad matchup, yeah, he'll lose the bad matchup, but he doesn't get crushed. And he'll always be relevant.
It's exactly what we make statements about Looper for, and to some extent Balls. But those players have been crushed, especially recently.
I don't think people target Zig that hard with in-game focus. I think he gets a little bit draft focus, but not much in-game.
He gets under the radar, but I think he's slowly climbing up because he's been playing really well. And
he's definitely moving up.
I mean, how many more times can I talk about Arrow? Like, we're going to be on this guy all day.
Oh, my God. Arrow, game 1. Game 2. When's the last... Can you think of a single mistake from him this season? Like, I legitimately can't think of a time where I'm like, that was dumb.
I think the only time where Arrow hasn't been able to pop off is when teams send, 4 people bot lane, and they kill his ass before he gets out lane.
In laning phase, he'll lose some laning phase. That's the biggest problem you can say, and half the time you're like... Was that his fault or Adrian's?
Yes.
There's not a single time where it's oh man, what is Arrow doing? It's what's their bot lane doing? That's the worst it gets.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. When I watch Arrow play, I'm so
you get
impressed.
Hot. You're I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
I need a minute.
I'm so impressed. So impressed with his level of play. Dominic just recently tweeted. He's this guy's the best player I've ever seen. This guy's the best AD in the league. It's insane. Perfect positioning. Perfect player.
There's times where I'll see him ult, and I'm like, that wasn't a good ult. And then it's wait, that was a good ult. There was one in the series from last on Friday night where he started ulting, and it didn't look like the ult was angled properly, but then it was fine. And I was I'm just never gonna say anything until I see the whole play.
There's a lot of situations where I don't think he hit the skill shot, but then the guy dies. I'm I guess he did hit it.
Yeah. Anyways. Arrow's a beast. P1 looks like we were saying they need an Ori. Doesn't look like they need an Ori that much as long as their drafts are working out. And
if their jungler is just even going to 15, 20 minutes,
their carries are so good.
Yeah, and in fact, it might be better that their jungler is not in that deficit as long as they can isolate the other jungler. Their laners can just stall.
Well, that's what I was going to say is Inori obviously helps the team out a ton in the early game and getting their fast victories, but he's also a big problem in their losses. Whereas if you just had a more consistent mid laner or jungler, what does this team look like? Do you need him to get early leads? Doesn't look like that's necessarily the case. You just need to not be losing with your carries.
We don't know if Enora will be back for next week. So maybe they keep Meteos one more week. I'd like to see what happens. Because I think Meteos only really hit his stride like coming into like the last game.
He wasn't playing much League.
Yeah.
Outside of just like competitive. He wasn't playing much League. And I don't know if because I don't know what their like team synergy is, and if it's worth risking like a potential attitude problem in the team if you actually do say, hey, in order we're gonna give Meteos another week. Like that could create.
Oh no!
That could
I don't
create
think that
problems.
should happen. But if in the situation where he has to play another week because Inori needs to be out another week.
That's not the case right now.
Is Inori coming back for sure?
Oh, I don't know. There's just not anything yet.
That's the thing. We don't know.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
There's a chance that he's not there next week. If we see one more week of Meteos, we can know the answer on the situation. If Inori comes back and his head's clear, then I guess we get to see what happens in that situation. Because maybe the week before where he fed his ass off, it was just like he was worried about stuff. Or he had stuff on his mind.
There's IEM next week, so he would have to be like gone for basically a month.
Oh, I completely forgot about. Oh, we're not gonna have. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we do one for IEM, but probably not because that tournament's fucking nobody there. Anyways, C9. I mean, like we said, concerns about their early game, concerns about their team playmaking.
Every time I talk about Jensen, it's always the same. Every time I talk about contracts, it's always the same. Jensen.
The only new thing is Impact has been struggling and got benched today, which is huge.
Really weird.
That's
I think
really weird.
generally C9's bot lane is a rock. Like they're always doing well.
Right.
And I think if contracts could find his way down there with mid lane, they can just win the game. They can straight up win games. But contracts is so mid lane focused because he has to be. I'm assuming that.
Right, I assume it's the kind of thing where Jensen's like, I can win if you do this thing. And then Contract does that thing.
And he always wins. Like, that's the
right,
thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, but you got to evolve. You can't just play that way.
Yeah,
so.
I think that if Contract's can find a way to split around his pressure across the map, C9 could turn into like a very interesting beast. But at the moment, they're kind of lacking in a lot of stuff, especially in the early game.
All right, we're going to move on. It is time now. I see there's a lot of stuff in here. Power rankings, baby. Oh, okay. I see what that is.
I'm ready.
Let's go. Power rankings. I don't have anything pulled up.
I don't have anything pulled up either. We're just gonna wing it.
All right, we're winging it. This is a not too hard a one to wing. I don't. Well, actually, this is like a good one to wing because it is so.
It's so open ended. It's usually when we do power rankings, we're like the very top, the very bottom, and then there's like maybe we're missing like 4 teams that we can really talk about.
Yeah.
And this one, it's like.
I still think number 10 is easy.
You're gonna put TL or NV?
I'm gonna put TL. I think we can go TL 10 easy. What do you think? Envy has things consistent.
It's depressing that I don't remember Envy games because it's like that means
their early game's good. They beat Echo Fox.
Oh yeah. So Envy has we can win early because we have Lyra.
Right. It's literally like Envy is not good, but they have a good enough early game that they can take games. Whereas TL has like nothing consistent you can rely on.
Unless Rainover's on Graves.
But that's not. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing you can rely on because you can't get Graves every game.
Maybe the team forgets.
Like every team in the league is like, oh, 2 weeks off. What's Rainover good at? Ah, shit, we gave him Graves.
Yeah, okay. Put him 10.
I think 10. I think Envy's an easy 9, and I think everything after that goes to hell.
Okay. So 10th. My thoughts on Team Liquid is they're just.
Yeah, they're just
I don't know what to say about Team Liquid because. It's like there's games where players look good. Like there's this one game where you're like, oh, Rainover's popping out. The first game, Piglet's hard carrying. The second game, Piglet literally 0-4 lane against Xpecial. You're just like, is this the same guy we saw hard carrying in game 1?
Yeah.
It's
like both series. It was the same story. It was like Piglet looks like a beast one game, and then Piglet looks straight boosted the next game, and it's just no consistency. Rainover, God on Graves. Totally mediocre on everything else. Golden Glue, what a good Echo game. What the hell is this Casio? You know, like there's just nothing. The most consistent thing is like Lorlo's mediocre.
Yeah, low. I think he's like above. He's like average.
I think he's average. I think there's a lot of good top laners in the league right now, and he's just average.
Yeah,
I would put him behind like Zig and stuff at this point.
Oh yeah, I would too. Zig is great.
So yeah, I'd say he's bottom half. You can still be an average player in bottom half in the league. Like
yeah, he's an average. From a person from top 3 to average. The fall of Lorlo.
The fall of the Lolo.
Okay, so Envy, I think Lyra's good.
Lyra's good. Everyone but Ninja is okay in lane.
Yeah, I think Ninja is just really inconsistent. He's like the type of player where like
I don't think he's even like so often when we say inconsistent, they go from good to bad.
Doesn't he still have like decent laning stats? If I recall correctly, like I was looking him up the other day. I don't remember.
I would need to look again, but I thought he was pretty bad. I thought overall he was pretty
No,
bad.
I'm saying he's like I like the bottom half, but he's not like 10th on everything.
He goes like average to bad, whereas like Reignover, like these other inconsistent players we talk about, go from like good to bad.
Okay, yeah, no, he's definitely one of the average to bad players.
Like when's the last time like Ninja carried? Right?
He beat Golden Glue.
Carried.
Yeah, against Gold.
Did he carry against Golden Glue?
I think so.
That was like week 2.
Yeah,
Or 3.
But I mean, I don't remember a lot of NBA games.
You don't remember? Like that's the last MV game you remember. That's when you checked out.
No, I remember the games this week because I was surprised that they could beat Echo Fox.
Yep. So I think I'm the same way. Their early game is good enough that they can probably beat a couple teams, and like TL's the same way. Where like if something goes right, they can beat a couple teams. But I just don't like the fact that there's nothing you can count on ever happening. That's why I like NBA a little better.
Okay, I have no problem with this.
What's up?
Echo Fox 8?
We haven't said
No.
anything yet.
Okay,
Settle down, Josh.
so I think
I gotta
in
turn
this
it just so I can look a
situation
little
we
bit.
should flip to the top of the ladder, unless you think
All right,
this
so
is easy.
I think this is really hard. So I'm fine flipping to the top of the ladder. We can talk about first place,
First place,
first through third. Oh, actually, first through 2 is really that's it. It's just 1, 2. Right? TSM C9. Who's 1, 2? Who's 2?
I think it's just there's okay. I think TSM's first.
I agree.
They had the hardest schedule humanly possible, playing against the second, third teams, or I guess the first and second teams, or first and third, right? And they beat them both 2 a week. They showed a lot of improvement in a lot of different areas, except for when Haunter is not on tanks. Then it gets kind of weird.
Everyone in A is struggling with that kind of.
Yeah,
comp
it's
right
not
now.
just them. Like it is a hard execution comp to run. I know a lot of TSM fans are there, like being very happy. And honestly,
I mean,
what can I say?
there's not too much to say.
I think Sven has been more consistent just about throughout. I think the
I'm
bottom
not-
lane
I'm not gonna
lane's
get-
okay.
I'm still fine with them being number 1, but I'm not going to get too hyped on them because it could like C9 had a bad week this week. Like
FlyQuest did too.
They didn't just lose to TSM; they lost to a P1 with a sub. FlyQuest didn't just lose to who did they lose to today? I can't remember who they lost to today. They also lost to fucking Dignitas. That's my point. Like a lot of the top teams didn't just like lose to other good teams; they lost to teams they should not lose to, and TSM beat them on those weeks. That's what I'm saying. They beat TSM beat FlyQuest also. I'm out of my mind. Anyways, that's what I'm saying. Like those teams are struggling this week. That's why I don't want to get too high on TSM. It's because they beat teams who are clearly struggling this week.
Okay, I agree. I thought that the times where TSM was going to be near the top of the rankings was going to be much later in the split.
I thought so too.
So for me, TSM would be contesting the first place team near the end near playoffs. They got there a little bit early. I think that's attributed to their improvement over the weeks, as well as other teams just not being inconsistent.
Like C9 has looked worse. It wasn't like I think TSM definitely got better. They looked much cleaner in the mid late game portions, and their early game is still good. But C9 just like okay, they don't do anything in the early game. Impact is now losing matchups and not looking good. He's getting benched. FlyQuest drafts are like awful sometimes. Or not awful, but like
I just think
they don't work.
Moon, they're a team where they're heavily reliant on the jungler too. And Moon is having a bad week, which he had a bad week with the KD. Look at that team.
Yeah,
And especially if their mid lane is under hard competition, look at that team.
Yeah, I agree. So I think TSM looked good, a lot of improvements overall. They beat 2 teams who seem to be in a little bit of a slump that previously weren't.
Yes. I don't want to be like they're the best team. I want to see I don't think they should go to 3 games, a lot of the times.
Yeah, like they if you look at their game record, they actually don't have a great game. I think it's like 18 and 11 or something random, something random like that.
Yeah, but I'd like to see. I think it's improvement. I'd like to see them close out Series 2-0 and look dominant. I want to be like, oh shit, they're playing TSM, not like. I hope the other jungler has a bad day.
Yeah. So TSM number 1. I think that puts C9 number 2. I still like him more than FlyQuest despite the struggles.
The Impact worries me. So I think Impact has always been the guy that I've seen that we remember we talked about this. He almost the most valuable player in the league. Like strictly, there was a period of time
Yeah,
during
like
the season.
last week we asked that question.
During the season where it's like Impact is so good. All the C9 fans are always like, "Oh, Impact, I love you!" Like all this stuff. Impact is my hero. But recently,
so here's something that I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Cloud9. This is totally hypothetical. Don't listen to me. But maybe the reason Ray was getting playing time earlier in the season was not just because they wanted to get him playing time. Maybe they had, like, maybe Impact has been struggling a little bit behind the scenes too. And while he was having good LCS performances, they're like, well, we need to be careful. And then he's finally struggling in the LCS, and they say, shit, now we actually have to try Ray.
That is true. It could be a possibility. I don't want to write him off yet. I think he's still a fantastic player. Maybe he had a bad week. This is the last 2 weeks have definitely been you're looking at C9's biggest problems. They're really bad. They're really bad early game by any statistical margin in the entire league. Comparative to even the bottom place team, they have a bad early game.
And it's not horrendous. It's like barely negative. It's like negative 130 goals.
But for the
number one ranked team, that's bad.
Yeah, that's terrible. Like, just when you go watch C9 games, ask yourselves, when are they going to get first tower? And a lot of times the answer is like, they don't. Yeah. And that's a lot of times when I see how you break the early game into the mid game, it's like off the first tower.
Yeah.
And C9 just doesn't do that.
They don't.
And the thing is, all the pressure goes mid, and Jensen doesn't go elsewhere unless he has a huge lead and they break open mid. And so those are C9's problems. They're still a good enough team to place top 3 in the league for sure.
So are you saying you think FlyQuest? I think FlyQuest has much stronger strengths a little bit than C9, but their problems are too big. Whereas C9 has that problem of not cracking turret. Yeah, they don't have good early games the way a top team should, and that's a problem. But FlyQuest will just straight up kill themselves. Whereas C9, I don't see that. Like C9 might lose, but when you're like, that was just so dumb. You're like, come on, do some more stuff, but you're not like, that's stupid.
Well, the thing is, I consider not having proactive play by the best team in the region when you're first as a dumb thing.
Right? No, I'm not saying it's not, but that's not like FlyQuest where they just kill themselves relentlessly against Dignitas, where they don't have dude, take your foot off the gas pedal. You're going 150. You're not on the fucking Autobahn here. Slow down.
But I mind that just as much as I mind what C9's doing.
I think I mind FlyQuest problem a little bit more, but they're both.
Okay, let's look at how these problems are solved. I don't know if either team can solve their problems. I think because at the moment it's like Jensen, throughout the entire history of him being in the league, has always been fairly isolated in the mid lane. He's moved around a little bit more here and there, and to the point where he influences enemy jungle, but in terms of influencing enemy lanes, has he really reached that point? And how long has he been in here? And how long has that been a problem for him? Quite a long time.
But we're not talking hypothetically, because I see where you're going here. You're saying fixing Jensen's inability to influence the map is much harder to do than having FlyQuest pull back a little bit. I know that's where you're going.
I don't know. I think they're both hard to do. And that's why I'm like, what's the easiest thing to fix? Maybe the easiest thing to fix is the C9 problem.
I would agree with the point that it's easier for FlyQuest to pull back and play a little bit more conservative than it is for C9 to discover a new dimension to their gameplay. I think it's definitely the case. But we're talking about what's a bigger problem currently in the standings this week. And there's FlyQuest C9 doesn't lose to Dignitas.
I think
FlyQuest loses to Dignitas.
Off the back of stability, C9 will always be good because Jensen and their bot lane are too good.
Right.
You're literally looking at the best mid lane and the best bot lane. They never lose by themselves. They're always winning.
All right.
And so because of that, they can get that luxury. Where it's like you don't get the same thing when you're looking at FlyQuest.
All right, so let's put it to finally put it in. I put Cloud9 2. I understand the reasonings for arguing for Cloud9 3.
No. I also put Cloud9 2.
Oh, what the fuck are we arguing about then?
Oh, I'm just trying to explain that I think C9 has this problem. I don't know how they fix it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like I said, probably a bigger problem going forward than what FlyQuest has.
Yes, maybe they can fix the early first blood, but if they have to rely on Jensen outplaying skill shot ganks, then I guess they just have to do that.
Yeah, and to be fair, FlyQuest has other problems. Like their individual skill is still a
lower
concern.
than C9, which is why I put C9 second because yes, they're the more stable team throughout.
Yeah, So I agree. I think there's like other problems, but they're big problems. You could say maybe Cloud9's is a big problem.
Okay, so C9 second.
FlyQuest third.
FlyQuest third.
Come on, we go FlyQuest third.
Okay, yep.
And then
this is interesting.
So after FlyQuest third, do you want to go back down to 8, or do you want to look at 4? I think you look at 4. Yeah, I think
it's P1.
Is it P1?
Well, what's the toss-up? It's P1, Echo Fox, Immortal, CLG.
Right. So I think you knock Immortals out of that probably.
I'm not willing to give CLG 4th either.
So that's my thing. Is I think it might be. It's a really close grouping with everyone, but maybe P1. I think I'm with you on P1 4.
Yeah, I think the next bracket after P1,
yeah.
we're going the rodeo, you know. But P1, every time I look at this team, I'm more and more impressed because at first you're just like, well, can Zig really play carries? Like, how many dimensions they have in their draft?
Right.
Well, it turns out he can. He's actually pretty good at them. Okay. Is Arrow going to stay this consistent player? Yes, he is. Is Adrian's laning going to be a problem? I think they found more and more ways to work around it. And then Ryu is still like solid. And this week they 2-0'd with a sub against like a good team too.
So my one thing I'll say is that the problem we had with P1 last week was that they had horrible Baron control. Like horrible Baron control. And that's a huge part of being able to close games out consistently, right? Also, Inori kind of losing his mind and feeding a little bit. But the bigger problem was the Baron control. This week, they didn't have to win through Baron control ever. They won through team fighting and like weird map plays and stuff. It wasn't like we baited the Baron, the enemy team face check, we TP flank.
Maybe they still have their problems when Inori comes back.
Well, I'm saying like this week didn't sell me that much. It was like, here's what we know P1 does well. Here's what they know they do bad. They won this week just doing what they did well. They didn't have to show they improved on what they did bad. So I'm a little hesitant moving them up that much. But they did beat Cloud9, and that's not easy to do.
Yes. I just think that, sure, they beat Cloud9 when they were slumping, obviously. But
right. Easy. Like, that's not Cloud9 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
yeah.
But that's still an impressive result. I think I was just relatively impressed, especially by the depth of their pool. Like, Zig especially came up pretty hard for me this week as a player who you're looking at to be like, oh, a secondary or a tertiary carry.
Yeah, I think that's something that's great that you saw that they have every single lane have threats and people you need to be concerned about in the draft phase and in game.
And the best thing about this is, and usually I don't like talking about future results, is that this isn't a team that I think will swing up and down very widely.
No,
because their carry strength is so strong. It's like when you're looking at C9, right? You know the Jensen, and the Sneaky Smoothie are going to be set. And this is, you know, the Arrow, the Ryu, the Adrian, it's going to be set. And Zig is slowly moving into
There's
the equation.
some concerns about the early game still, but if they get into mid-late game, they're going to have great team fighting. There's the Baron concern for me still, but I agree with 4.
Okay, put up P1.
P1 going to number 4. That brings us to this very, very difficult
grouping. So what were the options? CLG, Immortals?
Echo Fox, and Dignitas. I think I might not want to put Dignitas in this group.
No.
They beat FlyQuest and they beat TL, which is good.
Is beating TL good?
More the FlyQuest part of those two things they did this week.
Okay.
But the FlyQuest win to me didn't show me like, oh wow, you know, Dignitas is figuring it out. It wasn't like a convincing win, really.
Yes, it was FlyQuest convincing loss.
It was FlyQuest being like...
But it's impressive that they did win.
Right.
I'll give them that. I think here you put CLG.
I think you put CLG number 5.
And the reasoning is because they really only compete with Immortals on the slot. I think Immortals like CLG kind of...
Oh, not even Echo Fox at all?
Oh, shit. Okay, so they compete with those 3.
Right.
So my problem with Echo Fox right now is that I hate the even week, odd week stuff. But it does show they had a huge problem with Acadian not playing well and then them just falling to pieces. And not only that, Looper showed a lot of holes in his play as well. Or maybe not even holes, but I just didn't think he played as solidly as I expected from him. And this is like the equivalent of like Impact playing poorly for C9. Like, it's a big deal, you know?
Yeah, so what I'd say is like the thing about CLG is they probably look the worst of these 3 teams in their wins. Like, I think...
in the scrappy wins? Absolutely.
Do they have clean wins?
The first game. Usually they have one clean win and
who's the first
terrible
game?
win.
Who was the...
Even the first... remember the first win
Immortals?
against TL. Was it TL?
No, they lost game 1 versus TL. They got smashed.
No, it was the win against TL. Oh, no,
Their first win?
No, it was the win at the same time when they played with TL. Do you remember that? We were making
Yeah, they
comparison
played
yesterday.
Immortals.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like the clean
Yeah,
game.
that was okay.
It's a 26-minute game. And
I mean, like, the thing is, like, when Echo Fox wins, they win, like, hard. Their early game's popping off. You're like, oh, my God, this team's crazy.
yeah, but this entire week they didn't win.
Right, which is why I'm not putting them above CLG. But I'm just making the point that even when CLG wins, it kind of looks like a hot mess.
Oh, I completely agree with that. The reason for me personally why CLG is this high is entirely off the fact that they have more stable players. I'm not looking at Smithy for stability because right now it's more like, oh, he's the problem.
Yeah.
But ᵐᵉᵐᵉ really stepped up. I think in the last like maybe week and a half, and I think that him bringing stability to their bot lane elevates their bot lane's level of play close to C9's. And
They were losing to TL's bot lane most of the time in this series. They got solo killed in one of the games after. I think it was game 3.
No, it was like they got solo killed. Then they traded back. No, they got 1-for-1.
No,
And then 6-8 died randomly.
yeah, 6-8 randomly got killed.
But his support wasn't even nearby. That was him just being bad.
But that's my point. Is that's not what the good bot lanes do. That's not what C9 does. You can't compare him to C9's bot lane when they literally never do that. And that's something that CLG's bot lane tends to do.
That's true. So C9's bot lane is still up in the clouds.
yeah. I still think CLG's 5, as much as we're kind of like poo-pooing them a little bit.
Okay. So let's talk about Immortals. Why don't you want to elevate them up here?
It feels like it's the same problem I have with Echo Fox, where they're really one-dimensional. So like it's basically like Dardoch did well early game, and like CLG, they are a mess. Where it's like, oh, I don't know what this part's doing this time, or I don't know what that part's doing this time, but they can win. Like Huhi will have good games, Stixay will have good games, Darshan will have good games.
Yeah, I think they have got consistent forces, and overall, I consider them the better team. And then if they flop, they flop.
Yeah. CLG, I know CLG's bot lane's good. I'm just saying it's not fair to compare them to the best bot lane in the league.
Yeah, I think the best bot lane is way too consistent.
Yeah,
whereas CLG's still working on it. I think they did win. They definitely won lane.
They won lane really hard in the first
second game, right? They got the kill?
and the first series. They crushed Immortals bot lane once.
Yes,
because that was when they both took the turret at 6 or 7 minutes, whatever it was. Anyways. Yeah, Immortals, it's basically like their drafts are sometimes ridiculous with what they do bot lane.
Yes, I think the only problems I had with Immortals before, or the major problem, is that they would draft supports that didn't win lane, and you're literally playing on a team where Dardoch is trying to carry you through the early game, set up a good situation where he can impact the other jungler and the other lanes without your lanes collapsing. Yeah, and if you could do that, you can set. Then if Dardoch can't do that, it's not your fault. It's him playing badly. But in situations where you're getting solo killed or like you're just losing tower at 8 minutes, like you can't do anything.
Yeah, so I think it's a similar story with Echo Fox. I think their drafts are more solid. I don't have a problem with their drafts, but I also think like sometimes Immortals bot lane when they get a good draft looks actually good. I don't see that much out of Echo Fox's bot lane. So like they have these different strengths and weaknesses where it's like
whereas I feel like Echo Fox's mid lane is playing like top 5 most of the time.
Right, most of the time individually Froggen's playing great. But he kind of has that Jensen problem where he can't get it to other places without the
jungler.
Without the jungler kind of already being ahead. Like he doesn't take a jungler who's a little behind. He's like, dude, piggyback off me. I'm about to go in and do this stuff.
Yeah, he's not high, which has the lowest CS in the league.
Yeah, that's not Froggen.
He's not the guy who gives up the CS to be like, let's make this top lane play.
Yeah, and so I think the concern moving forward is like, okay, great first half of the season for Acadian. Dude's a beast. But
I still think he's a great jungler.
But this was 2 bad series.
Yeah, but if he matches up like if the other jungler does take advantage of him, their team doesn't go anywhere. That's what it seems like.
And I thought these were pretty bad losses. Like I think the loss to Envy in particular like reflects pretty poorly on the team because it wasn't like they need to be more creative in the mid game where they can come back from down 1,000 gold or 2. We've seen CLG do that. We've seen
I feel like the mark of a good team is the ability for them to come back. And
Right.
that's another reason why I put CLG higher, because even when you've always had these situations in CLG games where you're just like, there's no way they can win this game. And equally, you say, there's no way they can lose this game, and they throw it. But at least they have the ability to come back, which is just not true of like a lot of the bottom teams right now.
Yeah, so I would definitely say this is a problem in that sense where Echo Fox is like only ahead, only from ahead, only off Acadian's back.
we talked about the 3 teams. We're willing to put CLG 5th.
Right.
Okay? Josh, throw CLG at 5.
He already did like an hour ago.
My bad. So 6 and 7 and 8 are kind of we're left with what? Dignitas?
Yep. Echo Fox, Immortals.
So Dignitas 2-0 this week, correct?
I don't care. I'll straight up say I don't care. Mostly.
I think the only reason why I bring that up is if their strength of schedule is very good. You know? So TSM strength of schedule, they 2-0'd a strength of schedule that's the hardest in the league. I think this is literally the hardest strength of schedule any team has ever had.
Yeah, it's the hardest you can have based off what we've seen out of the team so far. Without P1 overtaking FlyQuest or C9, this is the hardest thing TSM could have had. They beat both. They did it in 3-game series, but overall convincingly showing good improvement.
And so the real question for me is how much do you rate the FlyQuest win?
For Dignitas, not at all. Because, like, look at the TSM series where FlyQuest has a bad first game with the Shaco pick, and then they go standard, and they compete really hard with TSM, and they push TSM, and TSM comes out on top. I didn't see a game like that in the Dignitas series.
Where they picked Jarvan twice?
Yeah, they picked Jarvan twice, and he does nothing. They pick carry tops, nothing happens. You didn't see a standard game out of FlyQuest when they show they can play standard. And if Dignitas beat FlyQuest on standard, or where like FlyQuest even looked like they were getting early games, that didn't happen. So it just looked like a horrible series out of FlyQuest. And it's nice that Dignitas isn't so bad that they can't take advantage of that, but it doesn't speak to me like now they're going to beat Echo Fox.
And they're winning against TL you don't care about.
I don't care about it. It was a 3-game series. It was really hard fought. I mean, apparently TL can kind of battle people. They battled CLG as well, the 5th place team. But it doesn't, like, everyone beats TL. TL's...
In the end of the day, you're just saying everyone just beats TL?
Yeah, you're going to beat TL at the end of the day. So, like, I don't know. Like, are you impressed by Dignitas? Did they impress you this week?
The only thing I thought was okay was I think they drafted a style that is something that I think that may work best with their team.
And I don't mean to say Dignitas isn't improving, but they haven't improved to the point where Echo Fox struggling.
I am not sold on them. So the reason why I think they beat FlyQuest, and I said this yesterday, was that FlyQuest is the ultra proactive team, and Dignitas has no idea how to be proactive, but they can react well.
Yeah.
And so right now they're a purely reactive team almost, and they just were able to counter FlyQuest's sloppy initiations.
Yep, and TL is a relatively aggressive team too. Like, look at their series versus CLG. They have like 20 deaths in their 2 losses. Like, this is not a team that when they fall behind, they slow down and make you beat them. That's not really how Team Liquid plays.
And that's why one of the biggest counters to Team Liquid, and something that they had to ban through the entire season last year, was Soraka. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that was literally like their death. The single champion that made it so they could not dive, could not do anything. They always lost against it. Yeah. It was their #1 ban against both CLG and Immortals.
This is Spring Split.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was actually so funny. I remember
that. It wasn't crazy. And, I mean, the team's changed out totally, but it is a similar style where TL is they'll just keep going, and they'll die. So Dignitas, yes, they're improving. I think that they figured out their draft a little bit more, and I think that they're not playing so reactive that they don't do anything.
The one thing I will say is there was one time in the game where I saw Chaser go bot lane, and I was so impressed. I told you about this. I was so impressed. I was like, wow, their jungler can go somewhere that's not top lane. And the other team was just like, what are you doing here? Because Chaser got like one, I think maybe even a double kill. He got at least 1 kill, and I was just like, he ganked bot. So I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I want to see more of that, but I'm not willing to.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet on it. I'm just saying
8.
There are good things about Dig.
8.
Echo Fox.
8.
Yeah, they're all 8.
Dignitas 8.
Yes.
There we go. Dignitas 8. So for me, between Immortals and Echo Fox, I think there's the question of consistency versus highs is I think what you want to look at, because like Acadian and Echo Fox, when they're popping off, it seems like they can beat almost anyone in the league, and I don't think Immortals has that explosive potential. But I think it's solely off the back of Acadian, whereas Immortals, yes, they rely heavily on Dardoch.
But Flame had a good series.
Flame can play well.
Their bot lane can play well. Idiot.
Yeah, their bot lane can play well.
Their mid lane's okay. He
moved around the map a little bit.
A couple times.
So there's more stuff. There's more stuff going well for Immortals. But Echo Fox, when things go right, have a much higher ceiling for me right now. So I don't know where you weight those two, but I know which one I prefer. You want me to say mine first?
Wait, what would you say has a higher ceiling?
I would say Echo Fox is the highest. Echo Fox playing on a good day beat TSM. Like, when they're playing aggressive and they're making their plays and Acadian's popping off, I feel like they can beat most teams in the league. I don't think Immortals has that.
So the one thing you're just asking me is this Echo Fox week a fluke?
Not is it a fluke. I think this is a legitimate problem, but do you value that explosive potential more than just knowing Immortals is a middling team? Because that's how it feels to me. Is that how it feels to you?
Well, the thing is, we said early on that we would not put that much on future performances.
I'm not putting it. This is my current understanding of Echo.
Understanding of Echo
They
Fox.
already beat TSM. This isn't like a hypothetical down the road. They beat TSM. A week ago. 1 week ago, they beat TSM.
They lost to Envy and... Was it Immortals? They lost to Envy and Immortals this week.
Yep. I'm asking which you prefer. I haven't said I prefer the explosive potential, by the way.
Oh, but I feel like you're hinting on it. Hinting at it.
Maybe I'm going to throw you a curveball. Because for me, legitimately, actually, I put Immortal 6.
I put Really?
Yep. I put Immortal 6.
You played devil's advocate the whole time.
I'm
oh my god!
I told you.
The
I have
entire
a
time
it's the change-up. It's the knuckleball.
The entire time I was just like, I think Immortal 6. Like, they beat the head-to-head matchup. Even if I don't care about that, they completely disregard it. Their drafts recently, or they've gotten to points where their bot lane doesn't just hard lose lane at 8 minutes, and Dardoch played really well, and Flame did fantastic.
Yeah.
You're Jesus.
I'm not messing with you, dude. I put Immortal 6 as well. Oh. I think Echo Fox. I like Echo Fox's drafts more, and I think they have much higher potential. I'm too concerned about their consistency problems and how much they piggyback off Acadian.
Yes, I'm willing to give Echo Fox a much better rating, but I just want to see like consistency. I
think their ceiling's higher for sure for Echo Fox. What are you doing? Like some fucking calculation?
I'm trying to think if I agree with that. I think.
You know what? Yeah, I might not agree with that either. Like if
Flame, Dardoch, Pole Belter have good ceilings.
Yeah, I think if Pole Belter gets anything like last year's form, this team actually looks good.
I think the bot lane, both the bot lanes have similar ceilings.
Right, but the problem is it feels like Immortals is more draft dependent, whereas like Keith and Gate are just.
Keith and Gate can do whatever.
Yeah.
But literally Gate. I think Gate they typically average out the lane.
Yeah. So I would say, for me, Immortal 6, just because they have a little bit more going on right now, even if I don't think they could beat C9 on a good day, the way I think Echo Fox, if they're popping off, might beat C9, I don't care because I think Immortals has more going on right now.
I completely agree. Put Immortals 6 and Echo Fox 7.
Echo Fox 7.
And if you're an Echo Fox fan...
That's a hard fall. What were they? They were like
third.
4?
They're third.
They're third.
If you're an Echo Fox fan, you're going to contest these standings. Tell me what they went this week.
Tweet at Scarra. Tell him he's an idiot.
No, if you tweet at me...
I can't believe you put them 7th. I would never do that. You bullied me into it.
If you're an Echo Fox fan and you're mad at where we put them, tweet at me, but make sure the opening of your tweet goes, my team just went 0-2 this week, and then make your statement. And then see if you tweet whatever you send me.
Is this just the normal standings? This isn't the normal standings. It's close.
Is it close? Is it the current standings?
I think TL. Oh, they lose the head-to-head to Envy. TSM and C9 are tied. Ah, fuck.
Is it really? This is the first time we've ever done it.
No, it's one off. It's one off. Tell me it's one off. It's one off. It's the exact same. It's one off.
We need to change something. Immortals 10th place.
What the hell? They won.
We gotta mix it up, dude. We can't have the same stuff.
I think we can.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's fine. If it's the same, we don't conform to what other things are. We didn't even know it was the same.
Yeah, I actually don't even know who won this week. I just make stuff up. All right, well, that's going to do it for PLT this week. Thank you guys for watching. Next week is IM, so we'll probably be off. I don't think we want to do one of these for that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I'll be doing IM either.
I'll do a blame game for it, but I don't think I'm going to put my time into it. Like,
yeah, maybe I'll do a blame game for it too. But for anyone who's interested, the VOD for today's PLT will be on my YouTube tomorrow. It should be tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon for anyone who came in late, anyone who wants to watch. Aside from that, this is post-league time week 5?
Week 5.
We are
halfway through the season. A
little bit over halfway through the season.
Yep. So make sure to follow the channel. Make sure to follow our social medias. Make sure to follow Xell Tweets. Excellent production dude helping us out. He hosts the pregame show. He can come up on the couch and give you a thumbs up. Yeah, he does the memes. That's the most important thing he really does.
Yeah, that's actually what we pay him for.
I listen to you guys until I get bored, and then I just do random shit.
That's fine. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now.
Yes. Maybe we'll hold the PLT Invitational next week, too.
What is the PLT Invitational?
Don't worry about it, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, there will not
Inside
be a
joke.
will not be a PLT tomorrow or next week.
Yeah.
But there will be a VOD tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.